Chapter 63. Yi Xian could not help but glance at the ninth princess in front of him. He had killed countless people. In Green City, if he did not kill, others would kill him. However, his intuition told him that the people he had killed were not even worth mentioning compared to the ninth princess in front of him. However, this was normal. After all, she was the commander of an army. When she killed, she would not kill one or two people, but a group of them. At this moment, the ninth princess seemed to have thought of something and suddenly shook her head. No, you can't get involved in these battles. After saying that, she walked into the distance. Yi Xian followed her. If you need help, the ninth princess interrupted Yi Xian. The Jiang country, the Ning country, and some other messy forces. They are targeting me. I have the protection of the army and the elites of the entire Jiang country, but you don't. So, you can't get involved. Well, it's decided. Yi Xian was speechless. After a while, the ninth princess and Yi Xian arrived at the drunken Immortal restaurant. Although the entire two-world city was a little out of place, the drunken Immortal restaurant was magnificent and magnificent. It really did not fit in with the two-world city. As soon as the two of them walked in, a delicate and pretty woman came out to welcome them. The woman bowed slightly to the ninth princess. Ninth princess, your private room is ready. Please follow me. After saying that, the woman gestured for them to enter and led the way. The ninth princess and Yi Xian followed. After a while, the two of them arrived at a luxurious private room. The private room was decorated luxuriously and the floor was covered with a thick layer of animal skin. In front of the two of them was a crystal table. Behind the table was a transparent crystal wall. The woman bowed slightly to the ninth princess. Your Highness, there is still 1 hour before the auction officially starts. Please wait for a moment. After saying that, the woman left. Soon, 2 women brought some tea, fruits, and snacks into the private room. The ninth princess glanced at the 2 women. You may leave. The 2 women bowed slightly and left. Only the ninth princess and Yi Xian were left in the private room. Yi Xian looked at the ninth princess. Ninth princess Jiangjiu. The ninth princess suddenly said, You can call me Little Nine like Shaoan. Little Nine. Yi Xian nodded and didn't think too much about it. He immediately said, Lil Jiu, we obtained a high-grade earth-rank martial skill from the Sword Master's abode, and those big shots above are really going to watch helplessly as such a high-grade earth-rank martial skill falls into our hands? Jiangjiu glanced at Yi Xian. You're too naive. Yi Xian was speechless. Jiangjiu said calmly, Those big shots spent so much effort to develop this Sword Master's cave abode. Do you think they didn't gain anything? The woman in the red dress bowed slightly to her surroundings. Greetings, everyone. I am Su Qing, the manager of the Two Realms City Management of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Tonight's auction will be hosted by me. As she spoke, she looked around and smiled brightly. Tonight, only 3 items will be auctioned. Although it's not much, it definitely won't disappoint everyone. As soon as Su Qing finished speaking, a woman carried an exquisite box onto the round stage. The woman placed the box on the round table in front of the woman in the red dress, then retreated. Su Qing opened the box. Inside the box, there was a thumb-sized green elixir. Within the room, Jiang Jiu's expression instantly changed slightly when he saw this elixir. A space-breaking elixir. Yi Xian gazed at the crystal wall before him. On the round stage, Su Qing grinned. A space-breaking elixir. It has an 80% chance of allowing one to advance from the Qi-controlling realm to the hovering realm. Such an elixir is probably very rare in the Jiang Kingdom. The starting price is 1 million gold coins, and every bid must be at least 200,000 gold coins. Within the room, Yi Xian's hands trembled when he heard Su Qing. 1 million gold coins? Yi Xian's eyes were filled with disbelief. After all, the entire city's income for half a year probably didn't even amount to 1 million gold coins. Yet now, a tiny elixir had a starting price of 1 million gold coins. When did gold coins become so worthless? Jiangjiu spoke indifferently by Yi Xian's side. That's enough to shock you? Yi Xian nodded. Very. Jiang Jiao shook his head and chuckled. Do you know that most of the wealth in this world is controlled by a small number of people? To put it simply, the poor are very poor, but the rich are very rich. Yi Xian touched the money pouch on his waist and shook his head. I'm really King poor. The corners of the ninth princess's mouth curled up slightly, and a touched smile appeared on her face. Before long, the elixir was bought for 3,600,000 gold coins. 3,600,000 gold coins. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. It's really poverty that limits my imagination. At this moment, a woman carried a box onto the round stage. Su Qing opened the box, and within it was a short saber. The blade was extremely thin, and the handle was pitch black. An unknown beast shadow was engraved on it. On the stage, Su Qing smiled. The name of the saber is Striking Shadow, a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. Among the spiritual weapons, I dare not say anything else, but in the Jiang Kingdom, this saber is only inferior to the golden saber of our Ninth Highness. The starting price is 2 million gold coins, and every bid must be at least 300,000 gold coins. 2 million gold coins? In the private room, Yi Xian was stunned, and then he turned to look at Jiang Jiao. Jiang Jiao raised the teacup in front of him and lightly sipped it, but he didn't say anything. Yi Xian looked at the golden saber hidden on his waist, and then he smiled bitterly. It's too precious. Jiang Jiao still didn't say anything. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he said, Thank you. Jiang Jiao turned to look at Yi Xian. If you want to return it to me, I'll definitely beat you until you can't take care of yourself. Yi Xian grinned, and he felt quite happy in his heart. Jiang Jiao shook his head. You idiot. Soon, the saber on the round stage was bought for 5 million gold coins. 5 million? When he heard this price, Yi Xian felt his heartbeat speed up. 5 million? He couldn't help but look at the golden saber on his waist. Is he going to sell it? As if he had the same thought, Jiang Jiao suddenly said, If you dare to sell it, I'll definitely cut off a certain part of you and make you a eunuch in the palace. Yi Xian. At this moment, on the round stage, Su Qing looked around, and then he smiled slightly. Everyone, next is the main event. As Su Qing's voice fell, a woman carried a black iron box onto the round stage. Su Qing opened the black iron box, and inside the box was a black scroll. Su Qing smiled and said, High-grade Earth-class martial technique, Finger of Nirvana. A genuine high-grade Earth-class martial technique. If a levitation realm expert learns it, they can easily fight a nether passage realm expert. If a nether passage realm expert learns it, they won't be invincible among those of the same level, but there will be few who can match them. And if an expert above the nether passage realm learns it, with this martial technique, their strength will increase by at least 40%. After saying this, she looked around. I'll cut to the chase. The starting price of this martial technique is 15 million gold coins, and each increment must be no less than 2 million gold coins. 20 million. As soon as Su Qing's voice fell, someone immediately made a bid. In the private room, when Yi Xian heard this price, he was completely dumbfounded. 20 million? Holy shit, 20 million? No, someone had already made a bid of 30 million. Jiang Jiao glanced at the excited Yi Xian beside him, and said softly, Now you know how terrifying the value of the thing you've thrown at me is, right? Yi Xian turned to look at Jiang Jiao, and then he grinned, and then waved the golden saber in his hand. No matter how precious, it's not as precious as the friendship between us, isn't it? He wasn't lying. In his heart, whether it was friendship or kinship, it couldn't be measured with money. Sentimental. Jiang Jiao retracted his gaze, but the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. At this moment, the bid had already reached 46 million. And at this moment, an extremely discordant voice suddenly rang out in every corner of the drunken Immortal restaurant. 1 gold coin, I want this martial technique. Inside the private room, several shadows suddenly appeared behind Jiang Jiao and Yi Xian like ghosts, and these people's expressions were incomparably vigilant. Jiang Jiao frowned slightly. There really is someone who dares to cause trouble for the drunken Immortal restaurant. At this moment, a voice that hadn't been heard for a long time suddenly rang out in Yi Xian's mind. Run! Run! Yi Xian was stunned, and in the next moment he grabbed Jiang Jiu's hand, turned around, and ran. Chapter 64. It was none other than the mysterious woman who hadn't made an appearance in a very long time. Yi Xian naturally didn't doubt her words at all. When they saw Yi Xian pull Jiang Jiu along and run, Jiang Jiu's guards were first stunned, but it didn't take long for them to instinctively obstruct Yi Xian's path. Yi Xian gazed at Jiang Jiu, and Jiang Jiu glanced at him and said, "Retreat." As soon as he finished speaking, their group swiftly retreated from the Immortal Indulgence Inn. Right at the instant they retreated from the Immortal Indulgence Inn, a strand of formidable force suddenly rained down from the top of the inn. Bang! The Immortal Indulgence Inn instantly exploded apart while numerous afterimages flew out from within it. Besides that, some shrill cries resounded as well. Yi Xian, Jiang Jiu, and the others retreated repeatedly when they witnessed this scene. Both of their eyes were extremely solemn. Right at this moment, a black-robed figure suddenly flashed out from the ruins of the Immortal Indulgence Inn, and the high-grade earth-rank martial technique from before was in the black-robed figure's hand. The black-robed figure was about to leave when a furious shout suddenly resounded from afar. "How dare you!" As soon as this voice resounded, a strand of invisible pressure suddenly descended from the sky and pressed down upon the black-robed figure. Meanwhile, the black-robed figure opened his right palm, and then a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed out from the center of his palm. Bang! A world-shaking rumble instantly resounded through the sky. At the same time, the bolt of lightning instantly illuminated the night sky to the point it seemed like it was daytime. The divine combination realm. Meanwhile, an old man appeared in front of the black-robed figure, and he stared fixedly at the black-robed figure. "Who exactly are you? Why have you come to my Immortal Indulgence Inn?" "The Immortal Indulgence Inn?" The black-robed figure suddenly started laughing. "Is it very great?" His voice was strange and hoarse, and he'd obviously concealed it. The old man was about to speak when the black-robed figure suddenly raised his right hand and pressed it down. Bang! A bolt of lightning blasted down from the top of the old man's head. The old man's expression changed drastically. He shook his hands towards the sky, and then a strand of formidable force surged out from the center of his palm. However, this force had only just come into contact with the bolt of lightning when it exploded into pieces. In the next moment, bang! The old man directly smashed into the ground. In the sky, the black-robed man did not attack again. Instead, his figure shook as he shot towards the distant horizon. In the blink of an eye, the black-robed man disappeared into the distant night. Down below, the old man crawled out of the ruins. He stared at the distant horizon and crushed a thumb-sized stone with his right hand. The stone trembled slightly and turned into a ray of black light that disappeared into the sky. Obviously, he was calling for help. Not long after, the sound of fighting suddenly came from the distant horizon. Obviously, the powerhouses of the drunken Immortal Inn had arrived. At this moment, a woman slowly walked up to Yi Xian and the ninth princess. This person was Su Qing, who had auctioned the item earlier. Su Qing bowed slightly to the ninth princess and said, "Your Highness, I'm sorry. The drunken Immortal Inn will recover the item. Please give the drunken Immortal Inn some time." The ninth princess looked at the sky and nodded. "I'll come to the drunken Immortal restaurant in 5 days." After that, she turned around and left with Yi Xian. After walking for a while, the mysterious woman's voice suddenly rang in Yi Xian's mind, "Go after them." "Go after them?" Yi Xian was stunned. "Hurry up." The mysterious woman's voice rang again. That person just now had the aura of a Dao Law. The aura of a Dao Law. Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat. "Senior, why didn't you say so earlier? I should have chased after them earlier." The mysterious woman said calmly, "That person just ran away and you're already chasing after them. Do you have a death wish?" Yi Xian was speechless. "What's wrong?" Jiang Jiu, who was beside Yi Xian, asked. Yi Xian collected his thoughts and looked at Jiang Jiu. "I have something urgent to do. You go back first." After that, he turned around and ran. Jiang Jiu frowned slightly. After a moment of silence, she looked at an old man beside her. Follow him. Don't let anything happen to him. The old man nodded. His figure trembled and he disappeared on the spot. However, not long after, the old man returned to Jiang Jiu's side with a rather ugly expression. Your Highness, I lost him. Jiang Jiu's eyes narrowed slightly. How is that possible? The old man spoke in a low voice. I don't know. His aura is completely gone. It's like he vanished from the world. Jiang Jiu gazed into the distance when she heard this. After a short moment, she spoke softly, That fellow is quite mysterious. Outside Two World City, Yi Xian was dashing madly all the way, and it didn't take long for him to enter the boundless depths of the mountains. As soon as he entered the mountains, he heard the sounds of battle resounding from deep within. Stop. The mysterious woman's voice resounded abruptly. Yi Xian hurriedly stopped. Senior? The mysterious woman said, Wait for them to finish fighting. Yi Xian found a place to sit down cross-legged, and then he spoke in a low voice. Senior, what exactly are Dao laws? The mysterious woman said, You'll find out in the future. Yi Xian nodded, and then he said, Senior, that fellow on the second level has woken up. The mysterious woman said, I know. Yi Xian hurriedly said, Can you beat it up? Slap. Yi Xian was blasted flying. He flew over 100 m away, and he even smashed through 2 trees along the way. When he crawled up from the ground, there was a red handprint on the right side of his face. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman spoke abruptly, You deserve a beating. Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman continued, Forget about that fellow on the second level for now. The important matter at hand is to quickly obtain a Dao law. This pagoda was heavily damaged all those years ago, so I'm afraid it'll be a huge problem if it doesn't have a Dao law. Yi Xian rubbed his right cheek and nodded, I know. But that fellow on the second level. Don't worry, it wouldn't dare to kill you. The mysterious woman said, You're the master of the pagoda now. Once you die, the entire pagoda will be without a master. At that time, it'll have to face the pagoda itself. Even though the pagoda doesn't have a Dao law, its instinctive resistance isn't something it can resist. However, the pagoda won't act rashly with you here. So, they won't let you die before it comes out. Yi Xian was quite speechless. The pagoda isn't a threat at all with me here. What the hell? Bang. Right at this moment, a shocking explosion resounded from the mountain range in the distance, and then countless bolts of lightning dashed through the horizon like silver snakes. Yi Xian's eyelids twitched when he witnessed this scene. Senior, that fellow is too strong. Would my life be in danger if I chase after it like this? The mysterious woman spoke indifferently, Fortune comes from danger. Yi Xian was speechless. Numerous explosions were still resounding in the distance. Moreover, Yi Xian noticed that the ground and the trees in the surroundings had actually started to tremble. What sort of expert is this? Yi Xian's expression was extremely solemn. Right at this moment, the distant sky suddenly calmed down. The mysterious woman's voice resounded. Chase after it. Yi Xian didn't hesitate and immediately chased after it. The further he went, the more shocked he was. Because many trees along the way had turned pitch black. Moreover, the ground had even cracked open as if it had experienced an earthquake. Yi Xian felt slightly guilty when he witnessed this scene. There was no doubt that the black-robed man's strength was absolutely not something he could go against right now. The mysterious woman spoke abruptly, I'm here. Why are you panicking? Yi Xian hurriedly said with a serious expression, with Senior's words, I wouldn't panic even if I had to challenge the entire drunken immortal in on my own. As soon as he finished speaking, he sped up. In next to no time, he arrived at a small hill. On the other side of the hill, a small hill had been shattered, and there were bolts of lightning dashing through the ground from time to time. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice, That black-robed man is already so strong, so why does he still want to seize that earth-rank martial technique? The mysterious woman said, That martial technique from before is only able to bring forth its true might in the hands of that black-robed man. Moreover, if he possesses that martial technique, then that black-robed man's strength would at least increase by 30 to 40%. When she spoke up to hear, she paused for a moment, and then she continued, "Go to the right. There's a waterfall over 1 kilometer to the right." Yi Xian flashed towards the right repeatedly when he heard this, and it didn't take long for him to arrive before a waterfall. Yi Xian was instantly stunned when he laid eyes on the waterfall. It was exactly that waterfall that he and Jiang Jiao had been hiding at not too long ago. Yi Xian arrived at the small hole near the waterfall. Sure enough, there was a person lying there, and it was exactly that black-robed man. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. "Senior, are the Dao laws in this fellow's possession?" The mysterious woman replied, "No." Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman continued, "He has the aura of a Dao law on him. In other words, he's definitely approached the Dao laws from somewhere." Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. "This fellow seems to be unconscious right now. I'll ask him when he wakes up? That's not realistic. I'll probably be beaten to death if he wakes up." The mysterious woman suddenly said, "This fellow isn't unconscious." Yi Xian was speechless. Right at this moment, a terrifying wave of pressure suddenly enveloped Yi Xian, and Yi Xian felt like a mountain was pressing down on him. He wasn't able to move at all. Yi Xian hurriedly said in his heart, "Senior, quickly make a move." However, the mysterious woman didn't speak. Yi Xian's face instantly turned pale. "Senior, don't screw me over." The mysterious woman still didn't speak. Right at this moment, the black-robed person suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. At this moment, the black-robed person had already taken off her mask, and a large part of her black robe was also torn. Thus, Yi Xian could clearly see the black-robed person's face. When he saw the black-robed person's face, Yi Xian was instantly stunned. A woman. The black-robed person before him was actually a woman. Moreover, it was a peerlessly beautiful woman. Her eyes were very large, calm, and cold, and her face was flushed and delicate. She was like a sparkling and translucent piece of jade that would cause one's imagination to run wild. When her facial features were put together, there was an indescribable beauty to her. Most importantly, the pair of huge breasts in front of her. They were too huge, but they didn't lose their balance because her figure was exquisite to begin with. This was a woman that could make a man's blood boil with just a glance. However, at this moment, Yi Xian's blood did not boil, only his entire body was ice cold. The woman stared at Yi Xian. "Who are you?" Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then he said, "Just pretend that I've never been here, all right?" The woman looked at Yi Xian for a long time. Gradually, her expression became extremely solemn because Yi Xian was right in front of her, but she couldn't sense Yi Xian's aura. Obviously, this was because of the mysterious woman. At this moment, the woman suddenly turned her head to look outside the waterfall. Soon, an old man landed on a tree in the distance. The woman's expression changed slightly. In the next moment, she directly flashed in front of Yi Xian, and then she stuck close to Yi Xian just like that. Yi Xian's body instantly froze on the spot. Outside, the old man glanced at the surroundings. He glanced at the waterfall and swept his divine sense around it. In the blink of an eye, he turned around and disappeared into the distance. At the small pit, the woman looked at Yi Xian, who was very close to her. "Carry me to the kingdom of Ning." Her voice revealed a trace of unquestionable killing intent. Yi Xian fell silent, but he was wailing in his heart. "Senior, save me." The mysterious woman did not respond. Chapter 65. Deep in the night, faint moonlight poured down, and the ground was covered in silver. Yi Xian sat on the ground in a small pit behind the waterfall, and the black-robed woman was in front of him. Both of them were very close to each other, and because the pit was very small, Yi Xian was able to clearly smell the fragrance coming from the woman's body. However, at this moment, he didn't have a shred of affection in his heart. All he wanted to do now was flee. Unfortunately, he didn't have a chance to flee at all. Even though the woman before him seemed to have suffered a very serious injury, she was absolutely not someone he could go against right now. All he could do now was wait and look for an opportunity. As for the mysterious woman, he didn't hold any hope in her. Meanwhile, the black-robed woman suddenly stood up. "Carry me on your back." Yi Xian looked at the woman's feet, and only now did he notice that there was a pool of blood beneath her feet. Without a doubt, her legs were probably heavily injured. When he witnessed this scene, some thoughts arose in Yi Xian's mind. Want to run? The black-robed woman suddenly smiled and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" Yi Xian glanced at the black-robed woman. In the end, he didn't choose to flee, because the difference in their cultivations was truly too great. Such a difference in cultivation wasn't something that could be made up for by external forces. Yi Xian's back was facing the black-robed woman, and the black-robed woman didn't care about anything and directly lay on Yi Xian's back. Big. This was what Yi Xian felt at this moment. Earlier, he'd only seen the magnificence of a certain part of the woman, but now that he felt it for himself, he noticed that it might be even bigger than what he'd seen. The second feeling was soft. Extremely soft. At this moment, Yi Xian thought of a phrase, soft and fragrant. Yi Xian didn't dare think too much about it, and he leaped out of the waterfall and dashed in the direction the black-robed woman pointed. On Yi Xian's back, the black-robed woman glanced at Yi Xian. Her expression was indifferent, but there was a trace of doubt in her eyes. Because up until now, she still couldn't understand why she couldn't sense Yi Xian's aura even though he was standing in front of her. This was extremely abnormal. After all, she was several realms higher than Yi Xian. This gap couldn't be bridged by any cultivation technique. However, she just couldn't sense Yi Xian's presence. Yi Xian didn't know that this was the reason why the black-robed woman didn't kill him. In any case, he was quite depressed now. The mysterious woman had said that she would be there, but she didn't say anything at the critical moment. Now, his life and death were in the hands of the black-robed woman. Aggrieved. Although he felt aggrieved, he did not dare to say anything. They were all big shots, and he could not afford to offend them. Yi Xian ran all the way to the border of Ning country. Ning country. Yi Xian also had some understanding of this country. The closest countries to the Jiang country were the Tang country and the Ning country. The Jiang country and the Tang country had constant friction. As for the Ning country, it didn't have a good relationship with the Jiang country, nor did it have a good relationship with the Tang country. It was like watching the tigers fight. Part of the reason why the Tang country and the Jiang country hadn't started a war yet was because they were afraid of the Ning country. With the Ning country around, neither the Jiang country nor the Tang country would dare to start a war easily. About half an hour later, the black-robed woman on Yi Xian's back suddenly said, "Stop." As soon as she said that, Yi Xian immediately stopped. As soon as he stopped, there was a sound of wind breaking above his head, and it wasn't just one. Yi Xian's expression turned grave when he sensed the two waves of pressure that flashed over his head. Either one of those two waves of pressure was not something that he could deal with at his current level. The black-robed woman glanced up and sneered. The drunken Immortal establishment has actually sent out 2 Divine Unity Realm experts. Yi Xian said sternly, "Senior, why don't we surrender?" If they surrendered to the drunken Immortal establishment, it shouldn't be a problem with the purple card. Surrender! The black-robed woman was amused by Yi Xian's words. Are we going to die if we surrender? Yi Xian, the black-robed woman patted Yi Xian's head gently. Let's go now. Yi Xian had no choice but to continue forward. As he ran, it was unavoidable for him to brush against the black-robed woman's body. In particular, the strange feeling from his back made him feel very comfortable. However, he dared not think too much about it. After all, the woman's strength far exceeded his. A night passed. By now, Yi Xian and the black-robed woman had already left the Two World Mountains. They were less than a day away from the border of the Ning country. When Yi Xian passed by a river with the black-robed woman on his back, the black-robed woman suddenly said, "Stop." Yi Xian stopped. The black-robed woman pointed to the river. "Carry me there." Yi Xian could only do as she said. Yi Xian placed the black-robed woman on a rock by the river. Then he retreated to the side and looked around from time to time. Want to escape? The black-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian. "I can easily kill you within 500 feet. If you don't believe me, you can try." Yi Xian was silent, but in his heart he said, "Senior, can you bear to see this woman bully me like this? Come out and hit her." The mysterious woman didn't speak. Yi Xian's face was filled with despair. At this moment, the black-robed woman suddenly said, "Come here." Yi Xian glanced at the black-robed woman. He thought for a moment and then walked in front of the black-robed woman. "After I send you to the Ning country, you will definitely kill me to silence me, right?" There was a trace of surprise in the black-robed woman's eyes. Obviously, she didn't expect Yi Xian to suddenly say this. Yi Xian looked straight at the black-robed woman. "You robbed something from the drunken immortal building. You can't let outsiders know about this. So, when I send you to the Ning country, it will be the day of my death, right?" The black-robed woman looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "I underestimated your wisdom." As she spoke, she placed both her legs in the river, allowing the water to wash away the bloodstains on her legs. "You can choose to die now or later." Yi Xian smiled. "I have another choice." The black-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. "I can choose to die together with you." The black-robed woman chuckled. "You've overestimated yourself." Yi Xian opened his palm, and the spirit grace sword appeared in his palm. The black-robed woman's eyes instantly narrowed when she saw the sword. Bright sword. Meanwhile, the spirit grace sword in Yi Xian's hand started to tremble violently. The black-robed woman looked at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian looked straight at her. "I'm definitely unable to defeat you. However, so long as I send out a strike and cause some commotion here, I believe that the experts of the Drunken Immortal building will definitely rush over. At that time, without my aura concealment, you won't be able to escape at all. It's fine if you die, but with the temper of the Drunken Immortal building, they will definitely not let the power behind you off. What do you think?" The black-robed woman smiled. "Perhaps you won't even have the chance to send out a strike. Then I'll give it a try." As soon as he finished speaking, killing intent surged explosively in Yi Xian's eyes. Obviously, he was going to execute a strike to decide life and death. The mysterious woman's silence allowed him to know that he could only rely on himself if he wanted to live, and placing his hopes on someone else was absolutely an extremely foolish way of thinking. On the other hand, Yi Xian was decisive. When he said he was going to risk his life, he really meant it. He wasn't trying to scare the black-robed woman. He was going to die anyway, so why not drag someone down with him before he died? The black-robed woman's eyes narrowed when she saw that Yi Xian was serious. Yi Xian stopped, but the spirit grace sword in his hand was still trembling violently. Obviously, it would explode at any moment. The black-robed woman looked Yi Xian in the eye. "I've really underestimated your courage." Yi Xian said in a low voice. "I only want to live." The corners of the black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. "If I'm not wrong, you seem to be the one who came looking for me. Even though I don't know how you found me, you definitely didn't come looking for me to save me, right?" Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then he said, "I won't hide it from you. The reason I came looking for you was to ask you about something." The black-robed woman was slightly curious. "Go on. Ask her where she sensed the energy of the earth." Right at this moment, the mysterious woman's voice resounded abruptly. Yi Xian gazed at the black-robed woman. "Where did you sense the energy of the earth?" The black-robed woman swiftly turned to look at Yi Xian when she heard this, and there was a trace of disbelief in her eyes. "How do you know that I've sensed the energy of the earth?" Yi Xian said indifferently, "I guessed." The black-robed woman stared fixedly at Yi Xian as if she wanted to see through him. Yi Xian didn't show any weakness and met her gaze. A short moment later, the black-robed woman said, "Who exactly are you?" Yi Xian shook his head. "Let's get straight to the point. I'll send you to the Kingdom of Peace. You can't kill me once you arrive there, and you have to tell me where you sense the energy of the earth." The black-robed woman fell silent for a long time before she nodded. "All right." Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "Can you make an oath?" "To be honest, I don't really believe you." The black-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian and laughed coldly. "Then attack right now. However, I have to remind you that I might not die if the immortal indulgence catches up to me, but you'll definitely die." Yi Xian took a step back and looked her in the eyes. "You have to swear that not only can you not kill me, you can't cripple me or imprison me. In any case, you can't harm me. Otherwise, we'll take each other down with us today." As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit gray sword in his hand started trembling violently, and a glow flickered on its tip. So long as he issued a command in his heart, the howl of the sword would resound through the sky. The black-robed woman stared fixedly at Yi Xian with an extremely icy cold gaze. "You've really thought it through." Yi Xian didn't show any weakness and met her gaze. "If you don't swear, then we'll take each other down with us today." The black-robed woman gazed at Yi Xian for a long time and didn't speak. Right at this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand trembled violently, and a ray of sword light was about to erupt. The black-robed woman suddenly said when she witnessed this scene, "All right, I swear that I won't kill you or beat you after you send me to the kingdom of peace, and I won't imprison you either. If I go against this, then I'll definitely suffer backlash from inner demons in the future." Yi Xian instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. If it was possible, he didn't want to fight to the death as well. Who wouldn't want to live? Yi Xian put his spirit gray sword away, and then he walked over to the black-robed woman. "Get up here. We're leaving right now." The black-robed woman glanced at Yi Xian while a trace of a strange smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. She lay on Yi Xian's body, and Yi Xian instantly sped up. All he wanted to do now was send this woman to the kingdom of peace as soon as possible and then search for the Dao laws. Because the mysterious woman was helping them conceal their auras, Yi Xian and the black-robed woman weren't pursued by the experts of the Immortal Indulgence Inn, and they finally arrived at the border of the Kingdom of Peace on the second night. Within a dense forest, Yi Xian put the black-robed woman down, and then he moved back a certain distance. "We're here." The black-robed woman gazed at Yi Xian and didn't speak. Yi Xian was shocked in his heart. "You wouldn't be going against your oath, right?" "Why would I?" The corners of the black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. "I don't want to have inner demons in the future, but—" Hearing these two words, Yi Xian secretly cursed in his heart. He turned around and ran, but the black-robed woman appeared in front of him like a ghost and grabbed his throat. Yi Xian stared at the black-robed woman. The black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. "Don't worry, I won't kill you, nor will I cripple you, nor will I imprison you, but—" As she spoke, she took out a pink pill and flicked her finger. The pill directly fell into Yi Xian's throat. The black-robed woman retreated a certain distance, and her mouth curled up into a faint and strange smile. Yi Xian stared at the black-robed woman. "What did you give me to eat?" The black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. "You'll know soon enough." At this moment, Yi Xian's face instantly turned red. At the same time, his whole body became incomparably hot, as if a ball of fire was burning within his body. In the distance, the black-robed woman chuckled. Her smile was very charming and alluring. "This is the Ning country's famous golden spear pill. It is said that it can make a man not fall for a night. You're very lucky." Saying this, she pretended to be surprised. I almost forgot. This is deep in the mountains. Where did this woman come from?" "Although there are no people here, there are many wild beasts here, he." As she spoke, she turned and walked into the distance. After walking for a while, she seemed to think of something. She turned around and said, "I didn't kill you, nor did I cripple you, nor did I imprison you." As she spoke, her body floated and she was about to fly away. At this moment, the world prison pagoda within Yi Xian's body trembled slightly. In the blink of an eye, two rays of sword light suddenly shot out from Yi Xian's body. In the distance, the black-robed woman seemed to have sensed something, and she immediately turned around. Her expression changed drastically when she saw those two strands of sword light, and she swiftly slapped her right hand forward. This slap caused countless bolts of lightning to surge out like a net. However, the two rays of sword light directly tore this net apart. In the next moment, the two rays of sword light pinned the black-robed woman to one of the trees. The two rays of sword light stared fixedly at her and directly sealed the meridians within her body, causing her to be unable to use the profound qi within her body at all. At this moment, Yi Xian pounced directly in front of the black-robed woman. At this moment, Yi Xian's eyes were blood-red, and his entire body was boiling hot. He seemed like a wild beast in heat. When she saw Yi Xian in such a state, the black-robed woman's expression instantly changed. She stared fixedly at Yi Xian and said fiercely, "If you dare to touch this queen will exterminate your entire family." However, Yi Xian didn't care at all, and he directly started to tear at her madly. When she saw this, a trace of panic finally appeared in the black-robed woman's eyes. "Don't act recklessly, or this queen." Just at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly covered her mouth with one hand and roared, "If you have anything to say, say it later." As soon as he spoke, he directly hugged the black-robed woman with both hands. P.S. May I ask weekly, how many readers silently read and silently vote? Come out of the book review and comment section and let this egg have a look. If you don't want to say anything, you can also vote. Chapter 66. At this moment, Yi Xian just wanted to vent crazily. In the night, the sky was a blanket, the ground was a bed, a beautiful woman was in his arms. The tree trembled, her hair tilted, and she flew up into the sky. Another round, and another round, each louder than the last. "Er is shy, quietly put her head away." After an unknown period of time, the sky had already turned white. Under the small tree, it was quiet. At this moment, Yi Xian was lying on the ground, and on the tree in front of him was the woman in the black robe. No, the woman was no longer in the black robe, and the woman's body was exposed to the air without reservation. The woman looked exhausted. At this moment, Yi Xian on the ground moved slightly, and then he sat up. His head was about to explode. This was what Yi Xian felt at this moment. He shook his head violently, and after a while, he felt a little better. As if he thought of something, he suddenly looked up at the woman in front of him. At this moment, the woman was naked, and her beautiful figure and fiery heat were exposed to him without reservation. And on the inside of the woman's thigh, there were traces of blood. At this moment, Yi Xian had already remembered everything. Yi Xian retracted his gaze, and he said in a deep voice, "Senior? Why didn't you stop her?" The mysterious woman's voice sounded, "How? Cure you?" Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "Senior doesn't have the ability to cure me?" The mysterious woman said, "I do." Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, the mysterious woman said, "Do you know what I hate the most in my life? I hate people who go back on their words the most. This person went back on her words, so she should suffer the consequences." Yi Xian smiled bitterly, "Senior, but I..." The mysterious woman suddenly said, "You're the one who benefited, what else are you not satisfied with?" Yi Xian. At this moment, the mysterious woman said, "Kill her, let's go." "Kill her?" Yi Xian was stunned. The mysterious woman said indifferently, "What else? With this woman's strength, if you don't kill her, wouldn't it be as easy as crushing an ant for her to kill you in the future? Don't count on me. I've already exhausted a great deal of energy the last time we fought. This time, my condition has worsened. I can at most last for a day. After a day, I'll fall into a deep sleep. We must obtain that Dao law within a day." Yi Xian's expression turned solemn. "Senior, are you all right? If you find Dao laws, I will feel a bit better," the mysterious woman said. Yi Xian nodded. He hesitated for a moment before looking at the woman before him. At this moment, the woman was staring at him. Her expression was extremely calm, and there wasn't the slightest ripple in her eyes. Yi Xian thought for a moment, then walked in front of the woman. He looked straight into her eyes. "I'm your first man, and you're my first woman. Neither of us is losing out." As he spoke, he picked up the clothes on the ground and put them on for the woman. As he was putting on the clothes for the woman, he felt his body become restless again. It should be said that he was a little impulsive. It was because of the medicine. Yi Xian took a deep breath. He thought to himself that the medicine in his body was definitely still there. Yes, it must be because of the medicine. "The medicine in your body has already disappeared," the mysterious woman suddenly said. Yi Xian was speechless. A moment later, Yi Xian forcefully suppressed the restlessness in his heart and helped the woman put on her clothes. However, the woman's clothes had already been torn by him earlier. Therefore, the woman's body could be said to be exposed at this moment. Yi Xian took off his robe and covered the woman's body before turning to leave. "You'll regret it if you don't kill me," the woman suddenly said. Her voice was cold and emotionless. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks. "Even if you kill me, I'll still be your man." He. As he spoke, he broke into a run. Not long after, Yi Xian disappeared from the woman's sight. Not long after Yi Xian disappeared, the two rays of sword light on the woman's body suddenly disappeared. After regaining her freedom, the woman's expression instantly became ferocious. Boom! Countless bolts of lightning suddenly swept out from her body. In an instant, the forest within a radius of several dozen feet was directly leveled to the ground. The woman soared into the sky and looked around. However, at this moment, she did not find Yi Xian's aura at all. That youth seemed to have disappeared from the world. The woman's expression was somewhat frightening. A moment later, her figure trembled and she disappeared into the horizon. Not long after, she arrived at a capital city. This capital city was the imperial capital of the Ning country. As soon as the woman arrived at the city, countless soldiers in front of the city knelt in unison. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The woman's figure trembled and she directly entered the city. Soon, she arrived at the imperial palace. Everywhere she passed, all the soldiers knelt. After entering the imperial palace, the woman directly went to the main hall. She sat on the dragon throne and picked up a brush in her lily-white hand. A moment later, a person appeared on the paper in front of her. This person was Yi Xian. The woman glanced at the person in the painting and said coldly, "Have the Golden Guards go to the Jiang country to find this person. I want all information about this person in 3 days." A voice sounded from a corner. "Do you want him dead or alive?" The woman's eyes gradually turned cold. Somewhere deep in the mountains, Yi Xian madly ran all the way. Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Senior? Do you think that I'm soft-hearted?" The mysterious woman said, "If you kill her, I'll look down on you." Yi Xian was slightly startled. "But didn't you tell me to kill her?" The mysterious woman said, "If you kill her, it means that you're afraid of her. The most taboo for a swordsman is fear. If you don't kill her, it means that you're not afraid of her. In other words, you believe that you can become stronger than her in the future. This is a good point." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then said, "That, senior? Actually, I didn't think that much." The mysterious woman. Seeing that the mysterious woman did not speak, Yi Xian cursed inwardly and hurriedly said, "Of course, senior is right. As a man, how can I be afraid of a woman? In the future, I want to become stronger. I want to become a sword immortal. I want that woman to know that sleeping with me is the proudest thing in her life." Stop. The mysterious woman suddenly said, "If you continue, I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop myself from killing you." Yi Xian. A day later, Yi Xian returned to the Two-World Mountain. "Senior, I don't remember that woman saying where she felt the power of earth. Just do as I say." Yi Xian nodded and quickened his pace. When night fell, Yi Xian returned to the Sword Master's cave according to the mysterious woman's directions. He walked all the way down and soon arrived at the entrance of the underground palace. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "You don't have to go in, go to the right." Yi Xian turned around and saw that there was a mountain wall on the right. There was no path at all. The mysterious woman said, "Hit." Yi Xian nodded, walked up to the mountain wall, and threw a punch. Boom! The mountain wall crumbled, but there was still a mountain wall behind it. "Keep hitting," the mysterious woman said again. Yi Xian nodded and continued. Just like this, after almost 7 minutes, a Xiao Dao appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was a completely different world. Yi Xian was stunned. The mysterious woman said, "Go down." Yi Xian nodded and slowly walked down. The more he walked, the more shocked he became. This was simply an underground world. Just like this, he walked for almost an hour, but he still hadn't reached the end. An hour later, Yi Xian found that the surroundings were getting hotter and hotter. "Keep going." The mysterious woman's voice sounded again. Yi Xian nodded and continued to walk down. Another hour passed. At the moment, his face was flushed from the heat. Yi Xian stopped. "Senior, it's too hot." The mysterious woman fell silent for a moment before she said, "Use the sword glow to protect yourself." Yi Xian nodded and withdrew the spirit-elegant sword. He emanated a sword glow to protect himself, and with the sword glow blocking the heat, he instantly felt much better. "Keep going." The mysterious woman's voice sounded again. Yi Xian nodded and quickened his pace. The lower he went, the hotter the surrounding temperature became. However, he forcefully endured it. Dao Law. He hadn't forgotten what the mysterious woman had said. With a Dao Law, his strength would be able to improve greatly. Of course, the most important thing was that with a Dao Law, he could make that fellow on the second level worry a little. Otherwise, that fellow would run out and slap him from time to time, and it would be extremely uncomfortable. Just like this, after walking for around 2 hours, Yi Xian stopped. Because there was an expanse of magma before him. There was really no path. Yi Xian was about to speak when he suddenly looked towards the center of the nearby magma. There was an earthen yellow object floating at the center. Yi Xian took a closer look. Soon he was dumbfounded. The earthen yellow object actually had the word "earth" in it. The word just floated at the center of the magma, and the magma transformed into nothingness every time it came into contact with it. "Senior," Yi Xian asked, "could this be that?" "Dao Law." The mysterious woman's voice resounded, "The grand Dao Law. If you're able to subdue it, then you just have to step on the ground to obtain an endless supply of earth energy when you fight others in the future. Besides that, it's equivalent to being able to control the first level of the pagoda. At that time, you'll be able to store everything on the first level and even use the first level to suppress your enemies." Yi Xian instantly felt quite excited when he heard this. "Senior, how do I subdue it?" The mysterious woman said, "Don't get happy too early. Even though this Dao Law has been heavily injured, it will instinctively resist. So, it might be slightly difficult and painful for you to subdue it." Yi Xian nodded. "A little pain is fine. I can endure it." "That's good." The mysterious woman said, "Now, calm down and listen to my instructions. Slowly sense the pagoda and then summon it." Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. 10 breaths later, he suddenly opened his eyes. An illusory Xiao Ta appeared between his eyebrows. Boom! In an instant, all the magma underground turned into nothingness. At this moment, the earthen yellow, earth, character in the distance trembled slightly. Following this, it turned into a ray of earthen yellow light and entered between Yi Xian's eyebrows. Kacha! As a cracking sound rang out, Yi Xian's eyes widened. His eyes were bloodshot. Yi Xian's body began to crack layer by layer at a speed visible to the naked eye, and blood splattered everywhere. "Senior, this isn't just a little pain, this is taking my life. I might have overestimated your strength." Chapter 67. I'm finished. That was the thought in Yi Xian's mind right now, because he felt like his entire body was about to collapse. Right at this moment, the pagoda between his brows suddenly vanished. At the same time, a strand of earthen yellow energy enveloped his body. Bang! Yi Xian's body shook violently. In the blink of an eye, countless strands of earthen yellow energy converged incessantly from all directions, and then they moved along his legs and converged into his body. As the energy surged into his body, his cracked body actually started to heal slowly. Repair. Obviously, the Dao laws were helping him repair his body. Even though the Dao laws were helping him repair his body, the waves of intense pain that came from his body still made Yi Xian feel like death was better than living. Because at that moment, he'd felt like his body was being pulled by an army, and the feeling of being torn apart had almost caused him to faint. Fortunately, he'd forcefully endured it. Otherwise, the consequences of fainting at a time like this would be extremely severe. Just like that, Yi Xian's body started to heal slowly. Around 2 hours later, the cracked skin all over Yi Xian's body had healed completely. Moreover, there was even a faint golden glow to his skin. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He glanced at his body and instinctively clenched his fists. Countless strands of golden energy suddenly appeared around him. The golden energy was like golden armor, and it seemed extremely dazzling. "What's this?" Yi Xian was slightly stunned. The mysterious woman's voice resounded. "The armor of the earth is condensed from the energy of the earth. You can condense this armor and obtain the energy of the earth by stepping on the ground. However, with your current cultivation, you can only persist for an hour at most. If you don't give up on the energy of the earth and the armor of the earth within that hour, then you'll suffer backlash." Armor of the earth? The energy of the earth? Yi Xian was stunned, and then he said, "Senior, is that Dao Law mine now?" The mysterious woman said, "Dream on. You weren't the one who condensed this Dao Law, and you're merely borrowing it now. Moreover, the level of the Dao Law isn't something that you can comprehend right now. Borrowing it now will be extremely beneficial to your comprehension of the Dao Law in the future. Right now, you only need to do 3 things. First, cultivate your sword. Second, cultivate your martial arts. Third, search for swords to devour. As for this Dao Law, it's too strong. You can only unleash 20% of its power at most. However, this is enough for you to use for now." Yi Xian nodded, then looked at the golden armor on his body. "Senior, although I'm only in the Qi Change realm now, I should be able to easily defeat soaring realm experts, right?" The mysterious woman said, "What you need to think about right now is whether or not you can easily defeat a Nether Passage realm expert, not a Levitation realm expert. Do you understand?" Nether Passage realm? Yi Xian's face stiffened, and he hesitated for a moment before he said, "Surmount 2 realms? Isn't that too exaggerated?" "Exaggerated?" The mysterious woman said coldly, "In my era, those who couldn't kill their opponents 2 levels higher would be embarrassed to call themselves geniuses." Yi Xian was speechless. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman said, "I've helped you restrain that woman in black earlier, and I've also helped you suppress the power of the Dao Law. I'm very tired now, and I need to rest for a while. Otherwise, I won't have enough energy to suppress this. In any case, you can only rely on yourself in the future. If you encounter any Dao Law in the future, this pagoda will notify you." Yi Xian said in a low voice, "Senior, are you all right?" The mysterious woman said indifferently, "Don't worry about me. Even if you and everyone else in this pagoda who's been suppressed die, I won't die. I just need to rest. Take good care of yourself. I don't want you to be dead the next time I wake up. Also, the World Prison Pagoda can be used against enemies, but I don't want you to activate it. Every time you activate it, the seals within the pagoda will loosen slightly. Take it easy. Moreover, even though you're the pagoda master, you can't control this pagoda right now. So, don't activate it unless you have no other choice. Otherwise, the pagoda's backlash might cause you to suffer a fate worse than death." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Senior, why do I feel like you're saying your last words? Are you really all right?" The mysterious woman said, "Do you want to know why the flowers are so red?" Yi Xian. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman said, "One last thing. The fellow on the 2nd level doesn't have any killing intent towards you, and it just wants to come out. However, you don't have the ability to let it out yet. Even if you do, you have to consider it carefully. Even though that fellow has been suppressed for so many years, and its strength has been greatly weakened, it's still not something you can fight against right now. It will hit me from time to time." Yi Xian suddenly said in an aggrieved tone, "It often hits people for no reason." The mysterious woman said indifferently, "There are many times when I want to beat you to death." Yi Xian, the mysterious woman said again, "Kid, live well." With that, the mysterious woman went completely silent. Yi Xian's face darkened. Obviously, the mysterious woman had fallen into a deep sleep. Yi Xian took a deep breath. Now, he could only rely on himself. As if he had thought of something, he slowly closed his eyes. In the next moment, a tiny golden earth character appeared between his brows. Dao Law. He clenched his fists tightly. In an instant, boundless power of the earth appeared beneath his feet. The power of the earth gathered towards him like a tidal wave. In an instant, a golden armor appeared on his body. Earth armor. He lightly touched the earth armor on his body. It was so thick that it could definitely block an attack from a peak Nether Passage realm expert, and it could even block the black-robed woman's lightning. Of course, he wasn't confident, and even if he could block it, he would probably be crippled. Other than the earth armor, he also felt a powerful force in his body. After a moment of thought, Yi Xian left the ground and came to the surface. He looked around, then clenched his fists again. In an instant, a powerful earth energy gathered around his body. After a moment of silence, he suddenly punched the ground. Fist collapse. He used all his strength in this punch. Other than the earth energy in his body, there was also fist momentum and battle intent. This punch fell. Boom. With him as the center, the ground within 100 feet of him directly collapsed. Dust and gravel flew in all directions, and the surroundings were a mess. After 2 breaths, a giant pit nearly half a foot deep appeared around Yi Xian. Not only that, but the ground dozens of feet away gradually cracked. The power of one punch was so strong. Yi Xian looked at his right hand with excitement in his eyes. His punch definitely had the power of a low-grade earth rank martial technique. It could be said that his punch was now second only to his life and death with one sword. Life and death with one sword had reached a new height after his sword reached the Sword of Light. To put it simply, he could do anything under the Nether Passage realm now. No, he could even do anything in the Nether Passage realm. Yi Xian retracted the earth energy, chuckled, and quickly walked into the distance. At this moment, his steps were like the wind. Soon, he returned to Two Realm City. At this moment, there were experts flying in the sky above Two Realm City. What was going on? Yi Xian frowned and hurriedly entered the city. As soon as he entered, Jiang Jiao appeared in front of him with a group of people. Jiang Jiao sized him up. "Are you all right?" Yi Xian shook his head. "I'm fine." "All right, what happened in Two Realm City?" Jiang Jiao said solemnly, "Let's go back and talk." Finished speaking, she brought Yi Xian back to her tent. Inside the tent, Jiang Jiao said solemnly, "Those auras above the city are experts from the Drunken Immortal Inn. According to my intelligence, the experts from the Drunken Immortal Inn seem to have lost track of that black-robed man. So, that high-grade earth-rank martial technique might not be recovered." Yi Xian said solemnly, "The Drunken Immortal Inn should compensate you, right?" Jiang Jiao said indifferently, "Who knows?" At this moment, a voice came from outside the tent. "Your Highness, Steward Su of the Drunken Immortal Inn requests an audience." Inside the tent, Jiang Jiao said with a smile, "Whether or not they will compensate, we will know soon." Saying this, she turned to look outside the tent. "Invite him in." Soon, Su Qing walked into the tent. When she saw that Yi Xian was also there, she was slightly startled and then nodded lightly as a greeting. Su Qing walked in front of Jiang Jiao and bowed slightly. "Your Highness, I came today for that high-grade earth-rank martial technique." Jiang Jiao said with a smile, "Why, the Drunken Immortal Inn has recovered that high-grade earth-rank martial technique?" Su Qing's expression was rather unnatural, and she shook her head. "I'm sorry, we weren't able to recover it. However, we've already sent out 3 Divine Convergence Realm experts, and I believe it won't be long before. What if we can't recover it?" Jiang Jiao suddenly interrupted Su Qing. Su Qing said in a low voice, "My Drunken Immortal Inn will definitely be able to recover it. 9th Princess, please believe us." Jiang Jiao shook his head and interrupted Su Qing. "Steward Su, what if we can't recover it?" Su Qing went silent for a moment, and then she said, "If we can't recover it, then my Drunken Immortal Inn will compensate your Highness." Jiang Jiao smiled when he heard this. "How much?" Su Qing went silent for a moment, and then she said, 10 million gold coins. As soon as these words were spoken, the nearby Yi Xian was stunned. On the other hand, Jiang Jiao's expression instantly turned cold. 10 million gold coins? "Steward Su, are you joking with me?" Su Qing's expression was indifferent. "Your Highness, that's the price given to me by the higher-ups. Of course, it's slightly unfair to your Highness. So, the higher-ups said that my Drunken Immortal Inn will take good care of the 9th Princess while you're in Twin World City." Jiang Jiao stood up and walked over to Su Qing. "That high-grade earth-rank martial technique is worth 50 million gold coins, yet you're only willing to compensate me 10 million? Do you think my Jiang country's imperial family is easy to bully? Su Qing looked Jiang Jiao in the eyes. Your Highness, this is already the best outcome. Her tone carried a threatening tone. Jiang Jiao's eyes narrowed slightly while killing intent arose within them. On the other hand, Su Qing's expression was indifferent and fearless. The drunken immortal had never feared anyone in the Jiang country. Right at this moment, Yi Xian spoke abruptly. Isn't it a little too unreasonable for the drunken immortal to do this? Su Qing swiftly turned to look at Yi Xian and spoke coldly. Unreasonable? My drunken immortal is already being very reasonable by compensating you. As she spoke, she glanced coldly at Jiang Jiao. Your Highness, farewell. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Jiang Jiao's expression was extremely unsightly, and she didn't conceal the killing intent in her eyes at all. Because the drunken immortal was obviously taking advantage of its strength to bully others. But she couldn't make a move against them. She really couldn't afford to offend the drunken immortal nor could she shed all pretenses with the drunken immortal Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly appeared before Su Qing, and he said with a serious expression, I feel that all of you should be reasonable. All of you lost something that's worth 50 million gold coins, yet you're only paying 10 million. This is truly inexcusable. Su Qing took a step forward and looked Yi Xian in the eyes. We're not compensating a single cent, so what can you do? Yi Xian said in a low voice. You're taking advantage of your strength to bully others. Su Qing sneered. My drunken immortal is taking advantage of its strength to bully others. You're not convinced? Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly drew the golden saber on his waist, and he swiftly slashed at Su Qing. Su Qing's entire arm flew into the air. Fresh blood sprayed. The nearby Jiang Jiao was stunned. Meanwhile, Yi Xian held the golden saber against Su Qing's neck. I'm fucking not convinced. As he spoke, the golden saber in his hand suddenly moved forward. Hiss! Chapter 68. The tent fell silent. In front of Yi Xian, Su Qing stared fixedly at Yi Xian. Her face was pale, and besides savagery in her eyes, there was a trace of disbelief. Because she really hadn't expected that this person would dare to attack her. The drunken immortal was standing behind her. On the other side, Jiang Jiao's eyes had a trace of disbelief as well. Because she hadn't expected that Yi Xian would attack her. The drunken immortal was standing behind this woman. I'm in trouble. That was the first thought in Jiang Jiao's mind. Meanwhile, Su Qing spoke fiercely. Do you know what you've done? Yi Xian's golden saber moved forward, and a trace of fresh blood instantly dripped down from his golden saber. Yi Xian's face was expressionless. Didn't you ask me if I was convinced? My answer is, I'm not. Su Qing turned to glance at Jiang Jiao. Your Highness Ninth, is this one of yours? Is your imperial family going to declare war on my drunken immortal Jiang Jiao walked over to Yi Xian, and she looked at Yi Xian. Do you know what you've done? Yi Xian nodded. Jiang Jiao spoke solemnly. The consequences are very severe. Yi Xian spoke softly. I can't bear to see her use her power to bully you. Jiang Jiao just stared at Yi Xian. But do you know? I might have to pay a huge price to settle this matter. I might not even be able to settle it. Yi Xian spoke solemnly. I'll settle it. Jiang Jiao suddenly spoke angrily. You'll settle it? How will you settle it? If the drunken immortal wants to kill you, it'll be as easy as crushing an ant. Su Qing sneered and was about to speak when Jiang Jiao suddenly slapped her palm against Su Qing's throat. Blood sprayed from Su Qing's mouth, and she fell to the ground. As she fell, Su Qing's eyes were filled with disbelief. Yi Xian was stunned as well. He hadn't expected that Jiang Jiao would suddenly kill Su Qing. Right at this moment, Jiang Jiao suddenly said, Remember, this person was killed by me, it has nothing to do with you. In a while, immediately leave Two Realm City and return to Conglan Academy. Take it as if you never came to Two Realm City. With that, she turned around and walked out of the tent. Yi Xian suddenly said, What are you going to do? Jiang Jiao turned to glare at him. Don't worry about what I do. Leave Two Realm City now, understand? With that, she turned and left the tent. Inside the tent, Yi Xian glanced at Su Qing's corpse on the ground and sighed. Am I King going against the drunken immortal brothel? Outside the tent, Jiang Jiao had only taken a few steps out of the tent when an invisible pressure appeared above the camp. Very quickly, a black-robed elder appeared not far from Jiang Jiao. At the same time, an old man and 3 men in black appeared behind Jiang Jiao. Jiang Jiao glanced at the black-robed old man. You should be the newly appointed 9th floor master of the Drunken Immortal Inn, right? The previous floor master of the Drunken Immortal Inn had suddenly disappeared, and then the Drunken Immortal Inn had changed to a new floor master. She had also heard of this news. The black-robed old man said indifferently, It is indeed the old man. With that, he glanced at the tent behind Jiang Jiao. Steward Su's soul tablet has shattered. I think she should have. I killed her. Jiang Jiao suddenly said. Hearing this, the black-robed old man's eyes instantly narrowed. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Jiang Jiao walked in front of the black-robed old man. Previously, I put up an Earth upper-grade martial skill for auction at the Drunken Immortal Inn. That Earth upper-grade martial skill was snatched away, and Steward Su came to me and told me that the Drunken Immortal Inn did not want to compensate a single cent. She even said that the Drunken Immortal Inn wanted to take advantage of their power to bully others, so I killed her. The black-robed old man stared at Jiang Jiao. Your Highness, no matter the reason, you killed someone from my Drunken Immortal Inn. Jiang Jiao nodded, yes. However, this matter has nothing to do with the Jiang Kingdom's imperial family. I believe that you don't want to drag the entire imperial family down with you, right? The black-robed old man spoke indifferently. Allow me to be frank, old man. My Drunken Immortal Inn is not afraid of your imperial family. Jiang Jiao smiled. Then do you intend to start an all-out war with my imperial family? To be honest, you don't have the ability to make such a decision. The black-robed old man gazed at Jiang Jiao for a long time before he said, Your Highness, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation, then from today onward, the Drunken Immortal Inn will no longer sell anything to the imperial family. Your imperial family won't be able to buy any of the food, weapons, armor, and so on that you require. Besides that, the high-ranking generals under the 9th Prince's command should be careful. Don't lose their heads as soon as they leave the inn. Jiang Jiao gazed at the black-robed old man, and the black-robed old man gazed back at her. Both their eyes were icy cold. Meanwhile, Jiang Jiao suddenly said, This matter has nothing to do with the imperial family. I'll return to the Drunken Immortal Inn with you and listen to its orders. Your Highness, you can't. An old man behind Jiang Jiao spoke abruptly, Your Highness, you absolutely can't do that. If you're not here, then the Tang Empire would definitely not have any worries, and they would definitely dispatch their forces to occupy Twin World City. You. Jiang Jiao raised her right hand to stop the old man, and then she gazed at the black-robed old man. You've already obtained a high-grade Earth-rank martial technique for free. Now that I'm going with you, you've probably profited greatly. Isn't that right? The black-robed old man grinned. Then please return to the Drunken Immortal Inn with me. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around with the intention of leaving. However, a voice suddenly resounded from behind him. Wait. Along with this voice, a man walked out from within the tent. It was naturally Yi Xian. Jiang Jiao's expression changed slightly when she saw Yi Xian, and then she walked over to Yi Xian and said angrily, What are you doing here? Trying to play the hero? You. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly grabbed her arm. I'll deal with him. As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled Jiang Jiao behind him and walked towards the black-robed old man. Jiang Jiao was stunned. Yi Xian walked over to stand before the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man gazed at Yi Xian with an expressionless face. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. I have 2 requests. Firstly, you apologize to little Jiao. Secondly, the Drunken Immortal Inn must compensate us 50 million gold coins. A wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of the old man's mouth. Who do you think you are? You. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly withdrew a violet card and passed it to the black-robed old man. When he saw this violet card, the black-robed old man's expression instantly changed. A violet card. In the drunken immortal inn, this was an existence that was only inferior to a black card. Moreover, even he, the ninth floor master, didn't have the qualifications to issue such a card. Only floor masters of the 5th floor and above had the qualifications to issue such a violet card. Yi Xian looked straight at the black-robed old man. I want to see the 3rd floor master of the drunken immortal inn. Inform him to come here right now. The black-robed old man glanced deeply at Yi Xian. Who exactly are you? Why do you have a violet card? You. Yi Xian waved his hand. You don't have the qualifications to speak to me. Ask the 3rd floor master to come here. Everyone behind Yi Xian had astounded expressions on their faces. On the other hand, the expression of the black-robed old man in front of Yi Xian had become unsightly. Since he'd become the 9th floor master, he'd never been humiliated like this. However, he didn't dare to flare up because this person before him possessed a violet card. Moreover, a person who was able to possess a violet card absolutely had an extraordinary identity. The black-robed old man thought for a moment, and then he said, Sir, I think there's definitely some sort of misunderstanding between us. Meanwhile, Yi Xian interrupted the black-robed old man once more. Do you not understand what I'm saying? As he spoke, his gaze turned cold. You don't have the qualifications to speak to me. Ask the 3rd floor master of the drunken immortal inn to come out here. This time, not only did the black-robed old man not get angry, he instead felt even more fearful. Since this young man dared to speak to him in this way, even an idiot would know that the young man had something to rely on. The black-robed old man hesitated for a moment before he chose to crush a black transmission stone in the end. Obviously, he wasn't sure exactly what the young man's background represented, so he didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief in his heart when he heard the black-robed old man call the 3rd floor master. Even though he seemed extremely calm on the surface, he was actually panicking in his heart. Because if the black-robed old man didn't call the 3rd floor master over, then he would really have no other choice. After all, he couldn't tell the black-robed old man that he had a peerless sword immortal standing behind him, right? Even if he did, the 3rd floor master wouldn't believe him. However, if he called the white-haired old man over, then the white-haired old man would definitely believe him. It wasn't long before a white-haired old man suddenly appeared here. It was the 3rd floor master of the drunken immortal inn. Yi Xian heaved another sigh of relief when he saw the old man. He suddenly felt that the old man was actually quite amiable. On the other hand, the white-haired old man was slightly stunned when he saw Yi Xian, and then he walked over to Yi Xian and smiled. Young brother, long time no see. The black-robed old man was stunned when he witnessed this scene. Moreover, Jiang Jiao and the others who stood behind Yi Xian were stunned as well. He's so amiable? Yi Xian didn't act carelessly, and he immediately bowed slightly to the white-haired old man. Greetings, senior. There was a wisp of praise in the white-haired old man's eyes when he saw Yi Xian bow, and he smiled. Is your master well? Yi Xian smiled. He's fine. When he spoke up to hear, his expression suddenly turned serious, and then he bowed slightly to the white-haired old man. Senior, please uphold justice for me. The white-haired old man was slightly stunned while the expression of the black-robed old man behind him was slightly unsightly. The white-haired old man glanced at Yi Xian. Is it related to my immortal indulgence in? Yi Xian nodded. I asked the 9th princess to auction a high-grade earth-rank martial technique at the Immortal Indulgence Inn. Unexpectedly, an unexpected event occurred, and that high-grade earth-rank martial technique was seized. After that, a manager of the Immortal Indulgence Inn came to tell me that. As he spoke, he recounted what Su Qing and the black-robed old man had said earlier, and he didn't exaggerate anything. The white-haired old man's eyelids instantly twitched when he heard Yi Xian say that my Immortal Indulgence Inn intends to use its strength to bully others. How did Pavilion Master Han die on the cloud vessel all those years ago? Wasn't it because she said those words? Moreover, it was exactly those words that almost caused a peerless sword immortal to vent his rage on the entire Immortal Indulgence Inn. Even though it was resolved in the end, the Immortal Indulgence Inn had lost 2 pavilion masters. Meanwhile, Yi Xian bowed once more to the white-haired old man. Senior, I don't have any other requests, and I just hope that Senior can uphold justice. The white-haired old man fell silent. 50 million gold coins. That wasn't a small amount. But this fellow before me has a sword immortal backing him. When he saw the white-haired old man fall silent, Yixian said, "Does Senior have any difficulties? If there is, then I don't want these 50 million gold coins." As he spoke, he laughed miserably. Master is right. If one is weak, then anyone will bully you. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and cupped his fists towards Jiangjiu. Ninth princess, until next time. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Jiangjiu was stunned, and then he said, "Where are you going?" Yixian stopped and said, "To look for my master." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked towards the distance with quick strides. Yixian walked towards the distance with a sorrowful and indignant expression as if he'd suffered some sort of enormous grievance. However, he was shouting madly in his heart, "Geezer, stop me. Hurry up and fucking stop me." Chapter 69. At this moment, Yixian was undoubtedly panicking in his heart. Look for master? What the hell? Just like that, he walked into the distance. Moreover, he walked faster and faster. Cold sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. Right at this moment, the nearby white-haired old man suddenly said, "Young friend, wait a moment." This voice was simply like the sound of nature to Yixian. If the old man didn't stop him, then he would really have no choice but to leave. Yixian stopped and turned around to look at the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man smiled. "Young friend, why bother your master for such a trivial matter?" As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around to look at the black-robed old man. "Go transfer 50 million gold coins over." Everyone here was stunned when they heard the white-haired old man. Especially the black-robed old man. He was stunned for a moment before he said, "Third pavilion master, the 50 million, the white-haired old man frowned slightly. "Go quickly." The black-robed old man didn't dare hesitate when he heard this. He glanced at Yixian before he turned around and left. On the other hand, Jiangjiu glanced at Yixian from nearby, and there was only curiosity in his eyes. The white-haired old man's gaze descended onto Yixian. After he sized up Yixian, a trace of surprise quickly appeared in his eyes, and then he shook his head and smiled, as expected of the sword. When he spoke up to hear, he paused for a moment before he said, "As expected of that senior's disciple. Even within my immortal indulgence there aren't many that can compare to the foundation of your body. Young man, you have a very bright future." Yixian grinned. "Senior, you're too kind." The white-haired old man smiled. "You're neither arrogant nor rash. Your disposition is not bad." Yixian was speechless. Right at this moment, the black-robed old man that had left earlier returned once more, and he passed a golden card to Yixian. "There are 50 million gold coins in this card. Your Excellency can withdraw them from any gold line in Qingzhou, or you can come to my drunken Immortal Inn." Yixian accepted the gold card and cupped his fists at the white-haired old man. "Thank you." The white-haired old man hesitated for a moment before he said, "Young brother, even though there are many misunderstandings between you and my immortal indulgence they're all just misunderstandings. What do you think?" Yixian said seriously, "Of course." The white-haired old man smiled. "The old man still has something to do, so I'll take my leave first. By the way, please send my regards to your master on behalf of the old man. If possible, you can come to my drunken Immortal Inn with your master in the future." Yixian bowed slightly. "Sorry for disturbing you." The white-haired old man smiled and said, "You're most welcome. Goodbye." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and vanished on the spot. The black-robed old man followed closely behind him. Somewhere, the black-robed old man suddenly asked, "Third pavilion master, my drunken immortal restaurant will not pay that 50 million, The white-haired old man looked coldly at the black-robed old man. "Not coming out? Do you want to die?" The black-robed old man was shocked in his heart. Exactly where did that young man come from? The white-haired old man closed his eyes slowly. An existence that my drunken immortal restaurant cannot afford to offend. The black-robed old man revealed shock on his face. How could that be possible? The white-haired old man said softly. Do you know how Tower Master Han and the 8th Pavilion Master perished? Before the black-robed old man could answer, the white-haired old man continued. They were killed by that young man's master with a single sword strike. The two of them weren't even able to resist a single sword strike. The black-robed old man was stunned. The white-haired old man turned his head and glanced at the distant horizon. I originally thought that this youth would join Kuraki Academy, but I never imagined that the group of idiots from Kuraki Academy would actually reject him. Now we'll have a good show to watch. As he spoke, he looked at the black-robed old man. Everything about this young man must not be spread. Just let Kuraki Academy continue courting death. Besides that, rope in this young man well in the kingdom of Jiang in the future. Don't look for trouble with him for no reason. The old man doesn't want to clean up your mess every single day. As he spoke, the white-haired old man's figure trembled and he directly disappeared into the distant horizon. The black-robed old man remained where he was for a long time. In front of the tent, after the white-haired old man and the black-robed old man left, Jiang Jiao walked in front of Yixian. She stared at Yixian as if it was her first time seeing Yixian. Yixian smiled. What's wrong? Jiang Jiao said calmly, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Yixian smiled bitterly. Actually, this matter is a little. Jiang Jiao suddenly interrupted Yixian's words. There's no need to tell me. As a person, you have to be careful. Do you understand? Yixian smiled. Alright. Hearing this, Jiang Jiao glared at him. Are you really not going to say it just because I told you not to? Yixian had a dumbfounded look on his face. Seeing Yixian's dumbfounded look, Jiang Jiao could not help but snigger. She turned to look at the surroundings. Very soon, the experts and soldiers in the surroundings all retreated. At this moment, Yixian handed the gold card in his hand to Jiang Jiao. For you. Jiang Jiao looked at the gold card in Yixian's hand and fell silent. The smile on her face also gradually disappeared. What's wrong? Yixian asked. Jiang Jiao raised his head to look at Yixian. This is 50 million gold coins. Yixian grinned. I know. To be honest, when I received this card, my hands were trembling a little because I've never held so much money before. Jiang Jiao looked straight at Yixian. You didn't have to give it to me. Yixian stuffed the gold card into Jiang Jiao's hand. Since when did you become so wishy-washy? Jiang Jiao grinned. All right. As she said this, she kept the gold card. As if she thought of something, she turned to look to the side. Very soon, an old man appeared beside her. The old man handed an ice blue box to Yixian. Young Master Yi, this is the fire spirit. His Highness sent this old man to the imperial capital to look for His Highness a few days ago. This fire spirit, the imperial family only has one. His Highness requested this fire spirit from His Highness, but, all right. At this moment, Jiang Jiao suddenly said, What's the point of saying all this? As she said this, she looked at Yixian. I know your sister's body is sick. This fire spirit should be of help to her. Also, I've already requested Imperial Father to send the best medical grandmaster in the country of Jiang to Zhonglan Academy. I just don't know the result. Yixian stowed the blue box away before looking at Jiang Jiao. He said seriously, Thank you. Jiang Jiao glanced at the gold card in his hand and shook his head with a sigh. You idiot. You've suffered greatly, yet you still want to thank me. You really are an idiot. Yixian, boom. At this moment, a deafening rumble suddenly rang out from the two-world mountains. Afterwards, a white mushroom cloud appeared in the sky above the two-world mountains. Yixian and Jiang Jiao turned to look in the direction of the two-world mountains. Jiang Jiao immediately frowned. They've already destroyed the restrictions on the spiritual vein. Looks like war is about to begin. Why? Yixian was confused. Jiang Jiao said softly, Now that the restrictions on the spiritual vein have been destroyed, the spiritual qi will definitely leak out, and the two-world city will benefit the most from it. At that time, this place will become a blessed land of feng shui. Many organizations and clans will definitely be willing to come here, and this place won't just be an important place for the military. The Tang Empire definitely won't let this place go. As she said this, she turned to look at Yi Xian. Let's return to the imperial capital. Yi Xian thought about it before nodding. He did not understand the affairs of the two armies, nor could he provide any help. Moreover, he had been out for quite some time now. It was time for him to return. At this moment, Jiang Jiao said, "Be careful when you return." "What do you mean?" Yi Xian was confused. Jiang Jiao said in a deep voice, "According to what I know, Sangmu Academy is investigating you thoroughly. This academy is extremely overbearing, no worse than the drunken Immortal establishment. After they find out some details about you, they might stab you in the back." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Are they that unconfident?" Jiang Jiao shook her head. "It's not that they are unconfident, but to ensure that nothing goes wrong. In the past, there were quite a few geniuses from Zhonglan Academy who disappeared without a trace. In short, be careful." Yi Xian thought about it before nodding. "Understood. Then I'll take my leave. See you in the future." As he said this, he turned and left. Jiang Jiao looked at Yi Xian just like that. Until Yi Xian completely disappeared at the end of the horizon, she shook her head and smiled. What an idiot! 4 hours later, Yi Xian boarded the cloud ship to the imperial capital. Because he had a purple card, Yi Xian stayed in a special private room, and it was free. Inside the prison pagoda. On the deck of the cloud ship, Yi Xian looked at Yi Ling's little wooden figurine in his hand, a faint smile on his face. After being out for so many days, the one he was most worried about was undoubtedly Yi Ling. He hadn't been away from Yi Ling for so long. As if he'd thought of something, he took out Xianxia's little wooden figurine. As he looked at the little wooden figurine in his hand, the smile on his face grew wider. But in next to no time, his smile gradually vanished, and all that was left was seriousness. Xianxia. He raised his head and looked towards the end of the horizon. After coming into contact with Xianxia a few times, he naturally knew that Xianxia's background wasn't simple. Even the drunken Immortal abode and Sangmu Academy didn't dare to rashly offend someone, so how could her background be ordinary? After a short moment, a wisp of a smile suddenly appeared on the corners of Yi Xian's mouth. "I'll come look for you. At that time, I'll beat to death anyone who dares to stop me." Right at this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared in the sky above the cloud ship. In the next moment, a terrifying pressure accompanied by an illusory giant hand suddenly descended from the sky like a bolt of lightning. The formidable pressure had just appeared, and the cloud ship directly cracked apart. Countless cries of shock resounded incessantly. At the instant he saw the illusory giant hand descend from the deck of the cloud ship, Yi Xian's pupils constricted, and he didn't hesitate in the slightest to jump off the cloud ship. The cloud ship was at least a few hundred meters above the ground. However, he had no choice but to jump at this moment. If he didn't jump, then once that hand descended, then he would die without a doubt. If he jumped, then he might still have a chance to survive. Yi Xian had just jumped off the cloud ship when the entire cloud ship behind him exploded into pieces. On the other hand, Yi Xian fell incessantly towards the bottom of the cloud ship, and his speed grew faster and faster. At the speed he was falling at, he would probably become a pile of mush by the time he reached the ground. Not to mention him, even a nether passage realm demon beast would be smashed into pieces if it fell from above. Chapter 70. What should he do? Yi Xian was expressionless as his mind raced. At this moment, the more flustered he was, the faster he would die. When he was about 100 feet away from the ground, he suddenly took out the Lingxiu sword. He gripped the Lingxiu sword tightly with both hands. "Big brother, it's up to you whether I live or die." As soon as he said that, the profound qi in his body surged into the Lingxiu sword in his hands. In the air, Yi Xian roared, "Fly with the sword." However, the Lingxiu sword only trembled slightly and did not fly. Yi Xian did not give up and continued to urge the Lingxiu sword. If he gave up now, he would undoubtedly be courting death. Sword kinesis. Chi kinesis. Kinesis which is... Yi Xian's thoughts raced. A moment later, he suddenly released his hands and the sword in his hands turned into a sword gleam that shot out like lightning. Seeing this, Yi Xian was ecstatic. However, the Lingxiu sword had no intention of returning. Instead, it shot into the distance. Yi Xian was shocked and hurriedly said, "Come back." As soon as he said that, he closed his eyes slowly. At this moment, he felt a certain connection between himself and the Lingxiu sword. He hurriedly urged the qi in his body. When he was about 100 feet away from the ground, the Lingxiu sword suddenly flew back to him like a bolt of lightning. He hurriedly gripped the Lingxiu sword with both hands. At this moment, he was only a few feet away from the ground. Just as he was about to land on the ground, the Lingxiu sword suddenly trembled violently. In the blink of an eye, it suddenly dragged Yi Xian up into the sky. However, before it could travel a few feet, it suddenly fell from the sky with Yi Xian. Very quickly on the ground, Yi Xian crashed onto the ground with the sword. The entire ground shook violently and dust rose into the sky. However, Yi Xian was laughing maniacally. Because the exquisite sword had dragged him up, the force of his fall from the sky had been completely dissipated. Falling from a height of over 100 feet with the toughness of his body, he could completely withstand it. Although it was a little uncomfortable, it wasn't fatal. Most importantly, at this critical moment of life and death, he'd actually accidentally comprehended the art of sword control. This was something he had comprehended himself. Sword kinesis. Using qi to control the sword. After laughing for a while, Yi Xian seemed to have thought of something. He hurriedly crawled up from the ground and ran towards the distance. It didn't take long for him to arrive in a dense forest, and then he hid himself on a tree. Yi Xian raised his head to look at the horizon, his eyes gradually turning cold. Why would someone sneak attack the drunken immortal In's cloud ship? Who would dare to do this? At this moment, the first place he thought of was Kuraki Academy. In the entire kingdom of Jiang, only Kuraki Academy dared to do this. But why would Kuraki Academy do this? Right at this moment, an aura suddenly appeared in the distance. Yi Xian's expression changed slightly when he noticed this, and he hurriedly leaped down from the tree and lay flat on the ground. At this moment, a tiny, earth character had appeared between his brows. The Tao laws. Yi Xian lay flat on the ground. At this moment, he utilized the energy of the earth to seem as if he'd fused with the earth, and his aura was concealed by the aura of the earth. An old man and a woman appeared not too far away from him. A savage expression instantly appeared on Yi Xian's face when he saw them. He knew them. They were the vice dean of Kuraki Academy, Mo Song and Bei Chen. Mo Song glanced at the surroundings, and then he said in a low voice, "Why isn't his corpse here?" Bei Chen said solemnly, "Master, there's no need for you to do this at all. I'm confident in killing him in the future battles." Mo Song shook his head. "You don't know. According to our investigations, he's not simple at all. Not only is he a quasi-martial grandmaster, but he's also a great swordsman. Moreover, rumor has it that he killed a manager of the drunken immortal Inn on the cloud ship. However, the drunken immortal Inn didn't pursue the matter. He was already able to fight against you while at Qi-controlling realm in the Two World Mountains, but the strength he displayed in the imperial capital couldn't compare to you at all. In such a short period of time, his strength has grown to such a level. When he reached there, he looked at Bei Chen and said softly, "It's not that I don't believe you, but our Kuraki Academy must win this battle. We can't afford to make any mistakes. We must maintain the reputation of Kuraki Academy for 1,000 years." Bei Chen fell silent and said nothing. Mo Song continued, "Don't overthink it. The Academy has absolute confidence in you and Fenju. It's just that this Yi Xian really is a little mysterious. He might really be the legendary sword physique. If we allow him to continue developing, he'll definitely become a great enemy of our Kuraki Academy in the future. This time, he's come out alone, and that Guesherin has already left the country of Jiang. Now is the time to kill him. In order to prevent any future troubles, I can only do this." Bei Chen hesitated for a moment before saying, "Master, if this gets out..." Mo Song sneered, "Get out? Firstly, no one knows about this. Even if some people guess that it was done by our Kuraki Academy, who would dare to accuse us? Who would dare? In the country of Jiang, no one would dare. In a month or so, the world will completely forget about Yi Xian. Beichen said nothing else. Mo Song glanced around and frowned. Why isn't there his corpse? Beichen looked around and said, he's only at the qi-resisting realm. Falling from such a high height, there's no way he could have survived. Perhaps he was directly torn to pieces in midair. Mo Song nodded. That's true. Forget it, let's not look for his corpse. Let's return to the Imperial City. Fenju has already returned to the Imperial City. With his personality, the students of Zhonglan Academy will probably experience what it means to live a life worse than death. Unfortunately, this Yi Xian is already dead. Otherwise, we could let Fenju properly punish him. After saying that, he and Beichen turned around and disappeared not far away. On the other side, Yi Xian's expression was extremely cold. As expected, it was Kuraki Academy's doing. Obviously, the strength he displayed had already caused Kuraki Academy to be a little afraid. Playing dirty. Yi Xian jumped to the ground and raised his head to look. His eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. Wait for this daddy's return, just you wait. He was naturally furious in his heart. This time, if he hadn't comprehended sword manipulation with qi at the critical moment of life and death, he would probably be a pile of minced meat by now. But this time, it also gave him a wake-up call. These forces in the Imperial City, compared to those small forces in Azure City, might be even more despicable and shameless. These aristocratic academies, in order to achieve their goals, would definitely do anything. Yi Xian withdrew his thoughts. After resting for a while, he got up and ran towards Two Realm City. Naturally, he couldn't just run to the Imperial City like this. It was simply too far. By the time he reached the Imperial City, it would probably be half a month later. In the mountain range, Yi Xian madly ran all the way. In front of him was the floating elegant spirit sword. He discovered that he still couldn't fly with the sword. He felt a little powerless. He didn't know what he was missing, but he could fly with the sword. In the future, he could already fly with the sword. To him, this was another killing move, and a very powerful one at that. As for the sword, he could only put it aside for now. Two Realm City. Within Jiang Jiao's tent, an old man suddenly entered the tent, and the old man said in a low voice, "Your Highness, something has happened to young Master Ye's cloud ship." Hearing this, Jiang Jiao suddenly raised her head to look at the old man. "What do you mean?" The old man said in a low voice, "The cloud ship suddenly shattered. I don't know the exact reason for it. However, it should be man-made." Jiang Jiao suddenly interrupted the old man. "What about him?" The old man hesitated for a moment, and then he shook his head. "I don't know if he's dead or alive. However, falling from such a height, bang." The table before Jiang Jiao shattered with a bang, and her expression was extremely savage. "Damned Kuraki Academy. Damn it." The old man glanced at Jiang Jiao. "Your Highness." Jiang Jiao suddenly raised her head to look at him. "Send out a group of 100 cavalrymen. You must find him, definitely." The old man nodded, and then he turned around and left. Within the tent, Jiang Jiao took out that golden card. Looking at the golden card in her hand, her expression was incomparably cold. "If you die, I will definitely make Kuraki Academy pay the price in the future. I definitely will." After saying this, she got up and walked out of the tent. She raised her head to look at the distant horizon. "No, you can't die. You have to live well for me." She clenched her right hand tightly, and her nails had already pierced into her palm. At night, Yi Xian quietly returned to Two Realm City. At this time, he had already put on a black robe, and his appearance was completely concealed. He did not go to find Jiang Jiao. For the sake of safety, the current him did not want to expose himself. He once again went to the drunken Immortal restaurant, and then secretly bought a cloud ship ticket. An hour later, a cloud ship slowly rose from within Two Realm City. Soon after, it disappeared into the distant night. On the cloud ship, in an ordinary private room. After Yi Xian locked the door from the inside, he entered the prison pagoda. Practicing the sword. This time, he wasn't practicing sword techniques, but using qi to control the sword. Within the first level of the prison pagoda, a sword was ceaselessly flickering as it flew about. However, its flight was very messy, and it would sometimes fall or stop halfway through its flight. Obviously, he was still not very familiar with this method of controlling the sword. However, this was not a problem to him. If he was not familiar with it, he would become familiar with it with more practice. A day and a half later, the cloud ship was getting closer and closer to the imperial capital. On the other hand, Yi Xian still did not leave the pagoda, and he was still cultivating madly. His natural talent and comprehension were both good, and he had gradually grasped a bit of the knocking door, and the spirit elegant sword was flying more and more smoothly. 4 hours later, the cloud ship was getting closer and closer to the imperial capital, and the outline of the imperial capital could already be seen from the cloud ship. The imperial capital. Canglan Academy, in front of Canglan Hall. Yi Ling sat on the stone steps, and she held a small figure in her hand. This small figure was Yi Xian. As she looked, Yi Ling sighed softly. She raised her head and looked down the mountain in the distance. "Brother, I miss you so much." Every day, she would come here and sit for 2 hours waiting for Yi Xian. Right at this moment, Xianxia suddenly came to Yi Ling's side. Yi Ling raised her head and looked at Xianxia. "Sister Ji, are you hungry again?" Xianxia shook her head. She sat beside Yi Ling and glanced at the wooden figure in Yi Ling's hand. "Your brother?" Yi Ling nodded her little head. "My brother carved it. It's very handsome, right?" Xianxia was about to speak, when she suddenly raised her head and looked not far away. There, a man and 10 people were slowly walking over. This man and 10 people were all students of Kuraki Academy. And when Xianxia saw the man in the lead, her expression instantly changed. Fenju! The man in front of her was one of the 2 great monsters of Kuraki Academy, Fenju. Fenju glanced at Xianxia. "Where is Yi Xian?" Xianxia slowly stood up. "He's not here." Fenju narrowed his eyes. "I'm not in the imperial capital, and your Canglan Academy's people killed my Kuraki Academy students. Who gave you the guts?" As his voice fell, he suddenly disappeared from where he stood. The ground in front of Xianxia directly split open. Xianxia pulled out his blade and slashed. Bang! Following an explosion, Xianxia's entire body was directly knocked back into the Great Hall. Fenju was about to continue, but at this time, a Kuraki Academy student behind him suddenly pointed at the nearby Yi Ling. "Senior Fenju, this person is that Yi Xian's little sister. His little sister is here, so he must be hiding." Hearing this, Fenju turned his head to look at Yi Ling. Yi Ling hurriedly turned around and ran. But at this time, Fenju suddenly appeared in front of Yi Ling. He grabbed Yi Ling's hair and forcibly lifted Yi Ling up. Yi Ling was in so much pain that tears immediately flowed down. Inside the Great Hall, Xianxia suddenly leaped up and slashed towards Fenju. This slash directly tore through the air. But very quickly, Xianxia suddenly stopped and retreated back to where she stood. Because in front of her, Fenju lifted Yi Ling up and blocked in front of her. Xianxia stared at Fenju. "Despicable! Despicable?" Fenju sneered. "Don't think that I'm afraid of you. I just don't want to kill you. Remember, make Yi Xian scram to Kuraki Academy within 2 hours to die. Otherwise, there will be one more corpse on Song Mountain's Xiaodao." After saying that, he carried Yi Ling and turned to leave. Behind Fenju, Xianxia suddenly said coldly, "Using a little girl as a threat, aren't you afraid that Kuraki Academy will become the laughingstock of the world?" "Laughingstock?" Fenju turned his head and coldly looked at Xianxia. "In this Jiang country, who dares to laugh at my Kuraki Academy?" Xianxia's eyes did not conceal the killing intent in the slightest. "As a man, don't you feel that using this kind of method is too despicable?" The corner of Fenju's mouth curled into a hint of ridicule. "As a man, I naturally do things unscrupulously. I won't waste words with you. Remember, within 2 hours, if the Yi Xian who killed my Kuraki Academy students doesn't come to Song Mountain's Xiaodao, then let him collect his sister's corpse. He killed my Kuraki Academy students. If he doesn't pay with his life, then I'll kill his sister." After saying that, he turned around and left with Yi Ling. Inside the hall, Xianxia hurriedly crushed a sound transmission stone. Not long after Fenju and the others brought Yi Ling away, a figure suddenly ran up the mountain from the foot of the mountain. The person who came was precisely Yi Xian. Yi Xian madly ran all the way and laughed, "Ling, old brother is back." Chapter 71. After not seeing his sister for a long time, Yi Xian's heart was naturally incomparably happy to return. He, who had never been separated from his sister for so long, could be said to have missed her immensely. Right now, he only wanted to see Yi Ling as soon as possible. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian rushed from the bottom of the mountain to the top. After arriving at the top, Yi Xian was stunned because he did not see Yi Ling. His voice was very loud, enough to be heard by the entire Mount Azure below. Normally, his sister should have heard it, but Yi Ling did not come out. Something happened? Yi Xian's heart sank. He was about to enter the hall when Xianxia suddenly walked out. Xianxia glanced at Yi Xian. Something happened to her. Hearing this, a sword cry suddenly resounded from within Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian stared at Xianxia. "Where is she?" Killing intent. Yi Xian's eyes did not conceal the killing intent. This killing intent caused Xianxia to frown. "You have to calm down, you." At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of her. In the next moment, a sword was directly pressed against her forehead as he said fiercely, "I asked you, where is she?" His voice was trembling. Clearly, he was on the verge of exploding with rage. Not only that, the sword in his hand was also violently trembling. Xianxia glanced at Yi Xian, then said, "Song Mountain Xiao Dao, Fenju asked you to go. I have already sent the order to grandfather, he will be back soon, you." Before she finished speaking, Yi Xian had already turned and rushed down the mountain. "Don't be rash," Xianxia hurriedly said behind him. And Yi Xian had already disappeared down the mountain. Seeing this scene, Xianxia's expression instantly changed. She knew something was going to happen. She hurriedly crushed another sound transmission stone and rushed down as well. At the bottom of the mountain, Yi Xian madly ran all the way. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was ferocious and crazy. His sister was his only sore spot in this life. For his sister, he would do anything. Along the way, many people were attracted by Yi Xian. When they saw Yi Xian, some people recognized him. "That's Yi Xian. What happened to him? I think he's going to Kuraki Academy? No way. Is he courting death? Let's go and take a look." Soon, some of the busybodies on the street followed them. Yi Xian sprinted all the way. Soon, he arrived at the foot of Mount Kuraki. At the foot of the Xiaodao and Song Mountain, Yi Ling was tied with a black rope and hung on a log. Her face was pale, and she looked especially helpless and scared. When Yi Xian arrived at the foot of the Xiaodao and Song Mountain and saw Yi Ling, he froze on the spot. At this moment, his mind was completely blank. At this moment, Yi Ling also saw Yi Xian. At this moment, her tears flowed down. "Brother, hurry, hurry and run." Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At the corners of his eyes, 2 streams of clear liquid slowly flowed down. At this moment, several Kuraki Academy students suddenly arrived in front of Yi Xian. One of them was about to speak when suddenly, a sword flew out from Yi Xian's body. The elegant spirit sword slashed down, and the body of the student in front of Yi Xian was directly split in half. Blood and organs instantly splattered all over the ground. Seeing this scene, everyone in the surroundings was stunned, especially those who had come to watch the show. What was Yi Xian doing? Was he here to kill? After he killed one of the Kuraki Academy students, Yi Xian didn't stop there. He held the elegant spirit sword and stabbed forward swiftly. The expression of one of the Kuraki Academy students changed drastically, and he took a step back. However, right at this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly flew out from his grasp. The head of the man who just retreated fell off his neck. Yi Xian suddenly appeared behind the headless student, Kuraki. He gripped his right hand to the right, and with this grip, he managed to grab hold of the spirit elegant sword. In the next moment, he held the sword and made a horizontal slash. A ray of light flashed, and then the remaining Kuraki Academy student was directly slashed into two at the waist. Swordsman. This fellow is the master swordsman. Someone exclaimed with shock. The master swordsman. As soon as these words were spoken, the surroundings erupted into an uproar. Swordsmen were extremely rare in the Jiang Kingdom. It wasn't that they didn't exist, but they were extremely rare. Moreover, many people really yearned to be swordsmen. To be able to roam the world with a sword in hand was a beautiful fantasy in the hearts of many. At this moment, when they saw that Yi Xian was actually a master swordsman, many people in the surroundings instantly felt slightly excited. At this moment, they'd forgotten about the mysterious Kuraki Academy and Songlan Academy, and they merely wanted to watch a swordsman kill. On the other hand, news of Yi Xian's arrival at Kuraki Academy had spread. In next to no time, countless people had rushed over to Grey Mountain, and it didn't take long for more and more people to gather at the foot of Grey Mountain. In the distance, Yi Xian had already killed several students from Kuraki Academy in an instant. All of them were instant kills. Right at this moment, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was one of the 3 vice deans of Kuraki Academy, Li Xiu. Li Xiu coldly looked at Yi Xian. You openly came to my Kuraki Academy to kill people, you. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly pointed his sword at Li Xiu and fiercely said, Kill people? Wasn't it your Kuraki Academy students who asked me to come? I'm here. Where are your people? As he spoke, he suddenly chopped off the head of a wailing Kuraki Academy student in front of him. Chi! Blood splattered all over Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian raised his head to look at Li Xiu and angrily roared, This number is too little, how can it be enough for me to kill? Where are the students of Kuraki Academy? Bring more of them. Li Xiu stared fixedly at Yi Xian, his eyes were filled with killing intent, and just as he was about to make a move, a voice suddenly sounded from the side. TSK, Kuraki Academy's students invited someone to a duel, just to bully the weak? Li Xiu suddenly turned his head to look into the distance. Not far away, an old man slowly pushed a black-robed girl in a wheelchair. The black-robed girl's eyes were closed, and the words just now were precisely spoken by her. Li Xiu stared fixedly at the black-robed girl, but the black-robed girl was not the least bit afraid. Songlan Academy used this youth's sister to invite him here, what, just to bully the weak? Or is it that Kuraki Academy's younger generation has no one left? Hearing the black-robed girl's words, many people in the arena immediately began to discuss spiritedly, and when many people looked at Li Xiu, their gazes were already somewhat strange. Bullying the weak? This was absolutely shameful. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly flashed down from Tsang Mountain's Xiao Dao in the distance, and behind this figure, there were still several tens of Kuraki Academy students. Very quickly, the figure in the lead arrived not far in front of Yi Xian. This person was precisely Fenju. And behind Fenju, there was also a large group of Kuraki Academy students. Fenju glanced at Yi Xian, then turned to look at the nearby Li Xiu. Vice Dean, why do you need to take action against this person? It's enough for me to come. Li Xiu slightly nodded. Don't underestimate the enemy. The corner of Fenju's mouth slightly raised, and he turned to look at Yi Xian. I didn't think that you would really come to save your sister. It seems like you still have some guts, you. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Seeing this scene, Fenju's expression slightly changed. His response was also extremely fast, and when Yi Xian's sword arrived in front of him, his body flashed, and at the same time, his right hand slashed horizontally towards Yi Xian's waist. A wind blade flashed out from his palm, and this wind blade was directly aimed at the fatal position of Yi Xian's abdomen. Yi Xian held his sword and slashed downwards with a reverse grip. Boom! That wind blade was directly shattered by this one slash. And at this time, Fenju suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian, and in an instant, countless wind blades slashed towards Yi Xian from all directions. Yi Xian fiercely stomped on the ground, his body left the ground, and then he slashed downwards with his sword. One slash to decide life and death. The moment this slash appeared, the nearby Li Xiu's expression immediately changed greatly, because the might of this slash had already completely exceeded the scope of the qi-resisting realm. Fenju's expression also slightly changed. Evidently, he also did not expect that this slash of Yi Xian's would be so terrifying. If Yi Xian's previous slash was only considered not bad, then this slash right now could destroy the heavens and exterminate the earth. The contrast was too great, and Fenju was actually stunned for a moment, but he quickly regained his senses. Immediately after, his hands suddenly clasped together, and in an instant, a gust of violent wind appeared in his surroundings. Very quickly, these violent winds formed into wind blades that shot towards Yi Xian's slash. However, when Yi Xian's sword slashed downwards, those wind blades were instantly shattered. The sword brought along a sword beam as it came straight down. Boom! Fenju's entire body was instantly blasted 30 meters away. And the moment he stopped, Yi Xian once again appeared in front of him, and then he slashed downwards once again. It was still one slash to decide life and death. This slash was even stronger than the previous slash, and when the sword descended, it was as if it was going to split the earth apart. Fenju's pupils slightly shrunk, and his right foot fiercely stomped on the ground. Bang! Borrowing the force from the ground, his entire body explosively retreated backwards, and Yi Xian's sword still descended. Boom! The entire ground instantly ruptured, and the powerful force and sword beam directly sent Fenju flying. When Fenju smashed onto the ground, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of him, and fiercely slashed downwards towards Fenju while holding the sword with both hands. And at this moment, a figure rushed towards Yi Xian from the side. It was another student of Kuraki Academy. Seeing this scene, the entire arena was in an uproar. It was actually not a one-on-one battle. Yi Xian suddenly turned his head, and in the next moment he abruptly changed the stance of his sword, and slashed horizontally towards the right. Boom! That student who had just rushed in front of him was instantly sent flying by this slash, and the moment that student was sent flying, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly flew out and slashed out. In the distance, that student's head was instantly sent flying. Fresh blood splattered everywhere, and that head rolled several meters away. Yi Xian beckoned with his right hand, and the spirit-elegant sword flew back into his hand, while Fenju, who was in front of him, had already retreated several meters away. At this moment, Fenju's eyes had a serious expression. Not only Fenju, but all of the Kuraki Academy students present also had a serious expression in their eyes. Obviously, Yi Xian's strength had already greatly exceeded their expectations. And Yi Xian did not stop, as he directly charged towards Fenju and the group of people in the distance. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Was he going to fight a group by himself? Fenju's expression turned sinister. "I'll do it myself." As his voice fell, he suddenly bent his finger and lightly touched the center of his brows. In the next moment, an aura suddenly swept out from his body. Boom! A formless pressure appeared out of nowhere in the arena. Nether Passage Realm. In the arena, someone cried out in surprise. He must have used some kind of secret technique. Fenju slowly walked towards Yi Xian, and the aura emitted from his body became more and more terrifying. And at this moment, no one noticed that under Yi Xian's feet, a powerful energy was quietly gathering very quickly. The two of them got closer and closer. At this moment, Fenju suddenly punched out. When the fist was punched out, the energy contained within was like a volcanic eruption, and the powerful energy forcefully forced Yi Xian to a stop. And at this moment, an earth energy suddenly gathered from the bottom of Yi Xian's feet to his entire body, and in the blink of an eye, Yi Xian's sword slashed down. Boom! The energy released by Fenju instantly shattered, and immediately after, his entire body flew backwards. Just as he landed on the ground, Yi Xian appeared in front of him, and at the same time, Yi Xian's sword slashed down in a straight line. Yi Xian. Right at this moment, Li Xiu's voice suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. "If you kill him, my Kuraki Academy will make sure that you and your sister die a horrible death." Suddenly Yi Xian fiercely slashed down with his sword. That Fenju's body was directly split in the middle. Yi Xian did not stop there, and instead wielded his sword swiftly. In an instant, that Fenju's corpse was directly turned into countless small pieces, and these small pieces of corpse formed a large Kuraki character. Yi Xian raised his head to look at the group of Kuraki Academy students in the distance, and roared like a wild beast. What, all of you have become impotent? Mother asterisk curs, come and seek me. P.S. Pleading for tickets. Maybe you guys are a little annoyed seeing me pleading for tickets every day, but there's no other way, life is forced upon me. In order to live, face and whatnot, I can only temporarily forego it. Chapter 72. The scene was completely silent. Everyone was looking at Yi Xian. Everyone could see that this swordsman in front of them had gone a little crazy from killing people. This was Kuraki Academy. At this moment, many people turned their heads to look at Kuraki Academy. Being provoked like this by a Tsanglan Academy student, how should Kuraki Academy face it? In the distance, Li Xiu and the others had incomparably ugly expressions, especially Li Xiu. At this moment, he really didn't expect that Fenju would be killed by Yi Xian. Fenju! One of Kuraki Academy's #1 monsters. He died here just like this? He was meticulously nurtured by Kuraki Academy. Of course, the current him was even more shocked, because compared to before, Yi Xian's strength was much, much stronger. Especially that last sword, the might of that sword, even he was somewhat moved. His growth was too fast. Li Xiu stared fixedly at Yi Xian, his eyes not concealing his killing intent. And at this moment, Yi Xian arrived in front of Yi Ling. He raised his sword and slashed. The rope binding Yi Ling was directly cut, and Yi Ling fell into his arms. Yi Ling tightly hugged Yi Xian. Brother, Yi Xian pulled Yi Ling to the woman sitting in a wheelchair. He squatted in front of the black-robed woman. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her. The black-robed woman slightly muttered, then nodded. She's safe. Yi Xian turned around and walked towards the group of Kuraki Academy students in the distance. At this moment, Yi Ling suddenly said with a trembling voice, Brother, Yi Xian stopped. Brother only has you as a relative in this life. Whoever bullies you, brother will kill that person. After saying that, he held his sword and walked towards the Kuraki Academy students in the distance, and said with an evil smile, What, Kuraki Academy is a group of no-balls? No one else is coming? Didn't you call me here? Now that I'm here, you're all impotent? Impudent. Not far away, a student suddenly jumped out and pointed angrily at Yi Xian. Yi Xian, this is Kuraki Academy, how can you? Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. A ray of light flashed through the air. In the distance, that student's expression changed drastically. He didn't dare to receive Yi Xian's attack at all and immediately retreated. At this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly flew out. The next moment, the exquisite sword had already arrived in front of that student. At this moment, a powerful force suddenly blasted onto Yi Xian's spirit elegant sword. Bang! The spirit elegant sword in Yi Xian's hand was sent flying. Everyone in the surroundings gazed simultaneously at Li Xiu who stood nearby. Because it was Li Xiu who'd launched the attack. The expressions of the spectators instantly became strange when they saw Li Xiu attack. Yi Xian stretched out his hand to hold the spirit elegant sword, and then he raised his head to look at Li Xiu. Li Xiu was just about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly spoke fiercely, Cut the fucking crap. I just want to fucking kill right now. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly stomped the ground and leaped into the air above Li Xiu. A single slash. A single slash to decide life and death. This sword strike had just appeared when numerous sharp sounds of air exploding resounded. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned when they saw Yi Xian actually attack Li Xiu. Has Yi Xian gone mad from killing? That's Li Xiu, the vice dean of Kuraki Academy. Moreover, he's an expert at the peak of the Nether Passage realm. At this moment, Li Xiu's expression had become ferocious. He suddenly stretched out his right hand, and then he slapped it upwards. A powerful force surged out from the center of his palm. Bang! Yi Xian was blasted back to the spot along with his sword, whereas Li Xiu was forcefully blasted over 3M back as well. The expressions of everyone in the surroundings changed when they witnessed this scene. Yi Xian was actually able to blast Li Xiu back? On the other hand, Li Xiu himself had an astounded expression. He hadn't imagined that the strength of Yi Xian's attack would actually be so formidable that it was actually able to blast him back. He was an expert at the peak of the Nether Passage realm. He was too monstrous. Li Xiu stared fixedly at Yi Xian, and he didn't conceal the killing intent in his eyes at all. If such a monstrous genius were to rise to prominence, then he would definitely become a great enemy of Kuraki Academy. When he thought up to here, Li Xiu was about to attack again. However, right at this moment, the black-robed woman who sat on the wheelchair suddenly said, "What? Does Kuraki Academy really have no one else, and they intend to bully the weak?" Countless people in the surroundings discussed animatedly. All of them had strange expressions on their faces as they gazed at Kuraki Academy, and some even didn't conceal their disdain at all. Yi Xian had come here alone, yet Kuraki Academy had sent a vice dean to fight him. This was clearly bullying the weak. Li Xiu turned around to gaze at the black-robed woman. "Who are you?" The black-robed woman shook her head. "I'm just an ordinary person." As she spoke, she raised her head to look at the mountain and said, "There are at least 10,000 people present here today. Could it be that Vice Dean Li doesn't want the reputation of Kuraki Academy that has existed for 1,000 years? Li Xiu's eyes narrowed slightly while his expression was slightly unsightly. Reputation. Kuraki Academy naturally cared about its reputation. So, if he were to attack, then it would obviously spread throughout the state of Jiang and even the other kingdoms. At that time, Kuraki Academy would be looked down upon by everyone in the world. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly pointed his sword at the students of Kuraki Academy, and he laughed fiercely. "What? Is there no one in Kuraki Academy that has balls? Come at me." The expressions of those students instantly became unsightly when they heard this. When had Kuraki Academy ever been humiliated like this? A student of Kuraki Academy immediately charged at Yi Xian. However, that student hadn't even arrived around 3M away from Yi Xian when his head had been lopped off by a flying sword. This blood sprayed. An instant kill with a single strike. Yi Xian didn't stop, and he swung his sword swiftly instead. In next to no time, the pieces of that student's corpse formed a large Mu character. He withdrew his sword. Yi Xian raised his head to gaze at the remaining students of Kuraki Academy, and he spoke fiercely. "Is there no one else? Come on, continue." As he spoke, he pointed the bloody spirit grace sword at the students of Kuraki Academy. "Students of Kuraki Academy, listen up. My name is Yi Xian, and I'll make it clear today. Either all of you kill me, or I'll kill all of you." The others in the surroundings were speechless. On the other hand, the expressions of the students of Kuraki Academy had become extremely unsightly. "He's going too far? This isn't going too far any longer. It's slapping Kuraki Academy's face in front of the entire world." Right at this moment, another student of Kuraki Academy charged forward. Li Xiu hurriedly said when he witnessed this scene, "Don't be impulsive. You. This." Right at this moment, the body of that Kuraki Academy student who just charged forward was slashed into two, and his blood splattered all over the ground. On the other hand, this student's corpse was formed into the word shui by Yi Xian. Li Xiu's expression was unsightly to the extreme when he witnessed this scene. This is an insult to Kuraki Academy. Right at this moment, more and more students of Kuraki Academy rushed down from Grey Mountain, and this included some students who were in closed-door cultivation. In next to no time, over 100 students of Kuraki Academy had gathered at the foot of the Shao Dao. Some of them were instantly infuriated when they saw the word on the ground. It didn't take long for a student to charge at Yi Xian once more. Yi Xian stomped his right foot on the ground and charged forward swiftly. At the same time, the sword in his hand stabbed forward, and a cold glow flickered on its tip. His sword pierced through the center of that student's forehead. At the same time, the spear in that student's hand stabbed towards Yi Xian's stomach. However, the spear wasn't able to pierce through Yi Xian's skin. Yi Xian held his sword and sliced lightly. That student's head instantly split apart, and fresh blood sprayed out like a fountain. Yi Xian swung his sword swiftly, and it only took an instant for the bloody words Kuraki Academy to appear on the ground. Some of the students of Kuraki Academy instantly revealed ferocious expressions when they witnessed this scene, and they were about to charge at Yi Xian again. Meanwhile, Li Xiu suddenly stopped all the students, and he shouted furiously, "No one is allowed to act arbitrarily without my orders." At this moment, he'd naturally discerned Yi Xian's strength. Yi Xian's strength wasn't something that these ordinary students of Kuraki Academy could go against. So, continuing forward would only be giving their lives away. Right at this moment, an old man appeared here. It was the other vice dean of Kuraki Academy, Kumu. He was the one who'd said that Yi Xian was trash that Kuraki Academy didn't want. Yet at this moment, Yi Xian was standing in front of him once more, and Yi Xian had even killed the most monstrous genius of Kuraki Academy, Fenju. He'd killed Fenju with such ease. Kumu glanced coldly at Yi Xian, and then he turned around to gaze at the spectators. "My Kuraki Academy has private matters to attend to today. All of you who aren't involved should quickly leave." An uproar arose in the surroundings when they heard this. He intended to drive them away. Right at this moment, a group of experts from Kuraki Academy suddenly appeared before the spectators. Some amongst the spectators were displeased and immediately stepped forward. "What? Is Kuraki Academy afraid?" Kumu suddenly raised his hand and waved it. Bang! The man who'd just spoken was instantly blasted into pieces by a strong gale. The expressions of the spectators instantly changed drastically when they witnessed this scene, and it didn't take long for countless of them to flee backwards. At this moment, they finally realized that they were standing before Kuraki Academy, one of the two strongest powers in Jiang country. Even the imperial family of Jiang country had to lower their heads before Kuraki Academy. It didn't take long for all the spectators to retreat completely. However, the black-robed woman in the wheelchair and the old man behind her didn't retreat. Kumu's gaze descended onto the woman in the wheelchair. "I presume you have something to rely on. Can you let the old man take a look?" The woman grinned. "How could I possibly have anything to rely on when Kuraki Academy acts like this?" As she spoke, she took Yiling's hand. "Let's go." Yiling shook her head. "Go with her." Yi Xian suddenly said, "Be a good girl. Big brother will be back soon." Yiling gazed at Yi Xian while tears instantly flowed down her face. "You lied to me." Yi Xian spoke softly. "Big brother has never lied to you. Be a good girl and leave with big sister. Big brother will be back soon." Yiling wiped the tears off her face. "But I want to accompany you." Yi Xian's body trembled slightly, and he spoke softly. "Big brother can't fight while you're here. Be a good girl and go back with big sister. Big brother will be back soon." "I'll do as I say." Yiling gazed at Yi Xian for a very long time while tears flowed down her face incessantly. Right at this moment, the black-robed woman suddenly bent her finger and placed it on the back of Yi Xian's neck, and Yiling directly went limp in her arms. The black-robed woman turned to face Yi Xian. "Take care." As soon as she finished speaking, the black-robed woman and the old man turned around and left with Yiling. Yi Xian was the only one left in the field. Yi Xian raised his head to look at the nearby Kumu, and Kumu suddenly vanished on the spot. Bang! Without any warning, Yi Xian's entire body was blasted over 30 m away before smashing heavily onto the ground. He'd just gotten up when he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood essence. Kumu walked slowly towards Yi Xian. "Aren't you very good at fighting? Why don't you fight me?" As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished on the spot once more. Only the sound of the wind could be heard, but he was nowhere to be seen. Bang! Yi Xian, who'd just gotten up, was blasted over 30 m away once more. Chapter 73. Kumu had stopped. The person standing before Yi Xian was none other than the dean of Azure Wave Academy, Old Man Ji. Ku Mu glanced at Old Man Ji while a wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of his mouth. He was just about to speak when Old Man Ji suddenly vanished on the spot. Bang! Everyone watched as Ku Mu's figure was blasted 300 m away. Everyone was stunned. Ku Mu was a divine convergence realm expert. Ku Mu, who'd crawled up from the ground, had astonishment on his face as well. How could you possibly? He was a divine convergence realm expert, and he was definitely one of the top experts in the Jiang Kingdom. However, he hadn't even been able to resist a single attack just now. Right at this moment, Old Man Ji suddenly took a step forward, and he'd arrived in front of Ku Mu with just this step. He was only a single step away from Ku Mu. Distance shrank. Ku Mu's expression changed drastically when he witnessed this scene, and he spoke with astonishment. You're not at the divine convergence realm. Bang! Ku Mu hadn't even finished speaking when his figure was blasted flying once more. Old Man Ji took a huge gulp from the wine gourd on his waist, and then he punched the air in the distance. Bang! The entire expanse of space trembled slightly. Ku Mu's expression changed drastically, and a powerful aura surged out from within him. However, this aura had only just appeared when it was instantly dispersed. In the next moment, a bloody hole had appeared on his chest, and then his figure smashed against a nearby mountain wall. All the students of Kuraki Academy were stunned. On the ground, Ku Mu stared at Old Man Ji in the distance. Hid so deeply, Old Man Ji paid no attention to Ku Mu, who was about to die, and he turned around to look at Yi Xian instead. Right at this moment, two people suddenly appeared by Yi Xian's side. It was Emo Yunqi and Bai Zai. Their expressions changed when they saw Yi Xian's appearance. At this moment, there were numerous fine cracks all over Yi Xian's body, and blood was flowing incessantly from the corner of his mouth. It showed no signs of stopping. It was obvious that he had not only suffered from external injuries, but also internal injuries. Meanwhile, Emo Yunqi suddenly turned around and pointed furiously at Ku Mu, and he said furiously, "Fuck your ancestors. You old dog. It's a one-on-one battle between students, yet you want to bully the weak? Motherfucker. Your Kuraki Academy is too fucking shameless." Bai Zai nodded and said coldly, "Shameless." Old Man Ji suddenly said, "Take him away." At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stood up and looked at Old Man Ji. "Why are you leaving?" "I'm not leaving." Finished speaking, he pointed his sword at the distant students of Kuraki Academy and said in a sinister voice, "Dean Ji, our Azure Billow Academy has fewer people, but so what? We don't have many people, but we can't be cowards. Let's fight them today. If we kill one, we'll break even. If we kill two, we'll make a profit." Emo Yunqi nodded by Yi Xian's side, and he looked at Old Man Ji. "Old Man Ji, it was they who offended us first. They openly came to our Azure Billow Academy to capture someone, and they even bullied the weak. Now, we still want to retreat? They're too fucking cowardly. We're not leaving. Fight them. You fight the old ones, and the three of us fight the young ones." Bai Zai slowly clenched his fists tightly. "Fight." Dean Ji glanced at the three of them. "Are all of you sure you want to fight?" Emo Yunqi was just about to speak when Yi Xian had already charged towards the group of Kuraki Academy students with his sword in hand. Emo Yunqi was stunned, and then he said, "Fuck? Do you really think we should fight just because you said so?" As he spoke, he and Bai Zai charged over right after Qinshi. Besides Bai Zai and Emo Yunqi, there was another person, and it was Ji Anji. The four of them were challenging a group of Kuraki Academy students by themselves. Old Man Ji pondered deeply for a moment when he saw the four of them charge towards the group of students, and then he turned around to look at Li Xiu and the others who were nearby. "Anyone who's at the higher sky realm or above will die." Li Xiu's expression instantly became unsightly when he heard this, and he hurriedly turned around to look at the old man. "Have you notified the dean?" The old man nodded. "The dean is already on his way back, and he'll be here in 10 minutes at most." Li Xiu nodded. Perhaps only the dean can go against this Old Man Ji who stands before him. So long as Old Man Ji is pinned down, then Yi Xian and the others will definitely die. When he thought up to here, A wisp of a ferocious smile arose on the corners of his mouth. Go all together. When they heard Li Xiu, the other students of Kuraki Academy charged directly at Yi Xian's group of 4. Over 100 people. Even the weakest was at the qi-controlling realm or above. Mo Yunqi's eyelids twitched when he saw over 100 people charging over. Big brothers, there are quite a lot of them. Bai Zhe glanced at Mo Yunqi. Are you afraid? Mo Yunqi said angrily, I've never been afraid of anyone. I'll just do it. Right at this moment, Yi Xian, who was leading the charge, swung his sword. In the next moment, the head of a student of Kuraki Academy in front of him flew into the air. At the same time, Yi Xian's entire body was blasted flying by another student of Kuraki Academy as well. The battlefield instantly descended into chaos. On the other hand, Yi Xian's group of 4 were undoubtedly suppressed. Over 100 people against 4 people. This was a suppression in terms of numbers. Moreover, not a single one of these 100 people was weak. At this moment, their battle intent was high, or it should be said that their killing intent was high. Earlier, Yi Xian had killed quite a few students of Kuraki Academy, and he'd even used their corpses to form the words Kuraki Academy. Yi Xian's actions had undoubtedly infuriated all the students of Kuraki Academy. Suppression. As soon as the battle began, Yi Xian's group of 4 were suppressed, and they were forced to retreat repeatedly. Head to Tsang Mountain Xiao Dao. Right at this moment, Yi Xian's voice suddenly rang out. When Mo Yunqi and the other 2 heard Yi Xian's words, the 3 of them hurriedly retreated while fighting. Soon, the 4 of them retreated to Tsang Mountain Xiao Dao. The Xiao Dao was narrow and could not accommodate too many people. Hence, when the 4 of them retreated to Tsang Mountain Xiao Dao, Kuraki Academy's attack instantly weakened. As for Yi Xian, he abruptly stomped his right foot on the ground. In an instant, countless amounts of earth energy gathered around his body. At this moment, a powerful wave of earth energy instantly gathered in his body. He gripped the spirit elegant sword with both hands and fiercely slashed forward. One sword to determine life and death. This sword was imbued with the earth energy. In addition to the fact that his sword was a bright sword, the power of this sword was more terrifying than any of his previous sword strikes. The sword fell. A resplendent sword light gushed out from the tip of the spirit elegant sword like a volcanic eruption. Bang! The 6 or 7 Kuraki Academy students in front of Yi Xian were instantly swallowed by this sword light and slashed into pieces. On the ground where Yi Xian stood, a ravine that was a full 5 feet high appeared. Not only that, but the remaining force of the sword heavily injured at least a dozen Kuraki Academy students at the side. Li Xiu's expression instantly turned extremely ugly when he saw this sword strike. The power of Yi Xian's sword strike had greatly exceeded his expectations. It was impossible for a qi-controlling realm cultivator to unleash such a terrifying sword strike. The remaining Kuraki Academy students also looked at Yi Xian in shock. Besides the ghastly murderous intent in their eyes, there was also a deep sense of fear. That sword strike earlier was truly too terrifying. Old Man Ji's eyes were also filled with astonishment. Yi Xian's sword strike had indeed exceeded the limits of the qi-controlling realm. However, he was even more astonished by the energy that had appeared on Yi Xian's body earlier. Mo Yunqi, who was by Yi Xian's side, suddenly wiped off the fresh blood on his face, and then he lightly poked Yi Xian's arm with his right elbow. Big brother, one more strike. Yi Xian took a deep breath. He stomped on the ground and held tightly onto the spirit elegant sword in his hand. In next to no time, boundless energy of the earth converged towards Yi Xian, and the spirit elegant sword in his hand started to tremble madly. The expressions of the Kuraki Academy students changed greatly when they saw this scene, and they retreated in succession. Right at this moment, an old man suddenly appeared not too far away from Old Man Ji. The person that had arrived was precisely the Dean of Kuraki Academy, Li Xuanzong. Greetings, Dean. Countless people present bowed to Li Xuanzong in unison. Li Xuanzong glanced at the nearby ground that was covered in corpses. His gaze stopped on Fenju's corpse for a moment, and then he glanced at the 4 words that Yi Xian had spelled out with corpses. In the end, his gaze descended onto Yi Xian. You did this? Yi Xian didn't speak. He stretched out his right hand, and the sword in his hand slashed out. A Kuraki Academy student who was caught off guard was directly slashed into two by this strike. Li Xuanzang's eyes narrowed slightly when he saw this scene. Suddenly, a powerful pressure appeared out of thin air above Yi Xian, and right at this moment, a force suddenly blasted onto the pressure. Bang! Both of them instantly vanished into thin air. Li Xuanzang turned to look at Old Man Ji. What? Are we going to start a war? Old Man Ji drank a mouthful of wine. In the next moment, the ground beneath his feet suddenly trembled violently. No, it wasn't the entire ground, but the entire Tsang mountain was trembling. At the same time, at this moment, the surrounding wind seemed to have stopped, and the light around Old Man Ji directly distorted. Seeing this scene, Li Xuanzang's eyes narrowed slightly. All things distorted. Pinnacle of myriad techniques. I didn't expect that after so many years, you didn't lead a befuddled life, but instead reached this level. Old Man Ji looked straight at Li Xuanzang. In the entire country of Jiang, including you and me, there are only 4 people at the pinnacle of myriad techniques. If you want to fight, I'll fight with you. Since Tsang Lan Academy is already like this, I have no qualms. We might as well turn the world upside down and destroy your Kuraki Academy as well. What do you think? Li Xuanzang stared at Old Man Ji without saying a word. Once they started fighting, Kuraki Academy would definitely win because they had the advantage in numbers. However, Kuraki Academy would definitely be destroyed. At least 80% of the Kuraki Academy experts present would die, and these students would have no chance of survival. As for Tsang Lan Academy, currently, Tsang Lan Academy only had 4 students left. Including the dean, there were a total of 5 people. It could be said that Tsang Lan Academy was alone. It wasn't worth it. Li Xuanzang glanced at the corpses on the ground not far away, his face extremely gloomy. After a moment, he looked at Old Man Ji. This matter can be dropped, but, saying this, he suddenly pointed at Yi Xian not far away. This person must die. If he doesn't die, you want to destroy indiscriminately? Sure. As Li Xuanzang's voice fell, several figures suddenly appeared around Old Man Ji and the others. All 6 of them were at the Divine Combination realm. Chapter 74. Yi Xian must die. This was Li Xuanzang's attitude, or rather, the entire Kuraki Academy's attitude. The talent and strength that Yi Xian displayed was simply too terrifying, especially when even Fenju died in his hands. If he was allowed to continue growing, Kuraki Academy would be in great danger during the life and death competition between the 2 academies in a year's time. This was secondary. The most important thing was that with the strength and talent that Yi Xian displayed, when he fully matured, he could even threaten Kuraki Academy. Moreover, the news of Yi Xian killing so many Kuraki Academy students had probably already spread throughout the imperial capital. If Yi Xian didn't die, it would deal a heavy blow to Kuraki Academy's reputation and prestige. Therefore, to Li Xuanzang and the entire Kuraki Academy, Yi Xian must die. Mo Yunqi, Bai Zhe, and Ji Anji looked at Old Man Ji. Old Man Ji drank a mouthful of wine, then looked at Li Xuanzang. He must die. Li Xuanzang said indifferently, if he dies, everything can be discussed. If he doesn't die, nothing can be discussed. Old Man Ji shook his head with a smile, then looked at the nearby Yi Xian. What do you think? Yi Xian looked at Old Man Ji. If Old Man Ji wants to keep the peace, the best solution is to sacrifice me in exchange for peace. Old Man Ji smiled. Are you willing to die? Yi Xian shook his head. I don't want to die. Moreover, I don't think Old Man Ji is that stupid. Although sacrificing me can temporarily keep the peace, Tsang Lan Academy will forever kneel in front of Kuraki Academy, unable to raise its head for generations to come. As he spoke, he looked at Old Man Ji. Old Man Ji, they bullied us first. Why should we make peace with them? Yes, our strength is inferior to theirs, but so what? As he finished speaking, he pointed his long sword at the Kuraki Academy students. Do you know why these people and those people in the imperial capital look down on Songlan Academy? It's because we are fucking cowards. Our Songlan Academy is always cowering in front of them. We are cowards ourselves, overcautious and indecisive, thinking about this and that. How can they look up to us? Songlan Academy has been kneeling for a long time. I don't want to kneel anyway. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around to face the students of Kuraki Academy. You ask me what I think, and I only have one attitude. If we don't make peace, we won't stop. Fight with them, fight until all 5 of us are dead. Fight. Right at this moment, Mo Yunqi suddenly stood up from the side. Old man Ji, after I joined Songlan Academy, I didn't dare to tell my family that I was from Songlan Academy. When I went out, I didn't even dare to wear Songlan Academy's uniform. I was afraid that people would recognize me as Songlan Academy's student. Outside, it was as if the moment I said I was from Songlan Academy, I was the son of Kuraki Academy. This kind of feeling was 2F** King Sullen. Finished speaking, he pointed at Yi Xian. Today, Kuraki Academy openly came to Songlan Academy to capture his little sister. This is AF** King face slapping, F** King bullying. If we don't fight this fight, wouldn't the students of Kuraki Academy come to our Azure Billow Academy and shit on our heads? Fight them. At worst, we'll all perish together. Bai Zhe, who stood by Mo Yunqi's side, nodded. Fight to the death. Ji Anji didn't speak, but he'd already drawn the saber at his waist, and his intentions were very obvious. Old man Ji glanced at Yi Xian's group of 3, and then he grinned. After that, he gazed at Chen Xuanzong, who stood nearby. Since your Kuraki Academy wants to take us down with you, then so be it. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly gulped down a mouthful of wine. In the next moment, a formidable pressure suddenly swept out from within him. With old man Ji at the center, the ground in an area of over 1 kilometer instantly collapsed. At the same time, a formidable pressure swept through the surroundings like a whirlwind. This pressure was aimed straight at Chen Xuanzong. Chen Xuanzong's expression finally changed when he witnessed this scene. Because he hadn't expected that old man Ji would choose to fight to the death with him. As far as he was concerned, old man Ji would definitely sacrifice Yi Xian in order to protect the remaining students of Songlan Academy and plan for the future. However, old man Ji didn't do that. He chose to fight to the death. Old man Ji wasn't an idiot. If he gave up on Yi Xian, then Mo Yunqi and Bai Zhe would definitely leave Songlan Academy immediately. It wasn't just the 2 of them, even his own granddaughter might turn against him. Moreover, and it was the most important point, the potential and strength that Yi Xian revealed caused Kuraki Academy to be fearful, but wasn't he the hope of Songlan Academy as well? How could he possibly sacrifice Yi Xian? Perhaps there was a trace of hope if he protected Yi Xian, but if he sacrificed Yi Xian, then Songlan Academy would absolutely have no hope. No genius or monstrous genius would be willing to join an academy that sacrificed its students. As soon as old man Ji attacked, the expressions of everyone on the side of Kuraki Academy instantly changed. On the other hand, all the Divine Union Realm experts around Yi Xian's group were blasted backwards repeatedly by the pressure that old man Ji emanated. All of them revealed astounded expressions. The peak of the myriad technique realm. If such an expert were to fight to the death, then it was obvious that even if Yi Xian and the others perished in battle, the entire Kuraki Academy would still be crushed. At this moment, Li Xuanzong's expression was extremely unsightly as well. Because he didn't intend to fight to the death with old man Ji. Kuraki Academy was huge now, but what about Songlan Academy? It was on the verge of bankruptcy. Kuraki Academy would suffer a huge loss if they fought to the death at this moment. Right when the battle was about to erupt, a voice suddenly resounded. Wait a moment, old man Ji. As soon as this voice resounded, a gray-robed old man suddenly appeared here. Old man Ji stopped and turned around to look at the gray-robed old man. What are you doing here? The gray-robed old man was the previous king of the state of Jiang Yuetian. He was one of the 4 great Dharma realm experts of the state of Jiang. Jiang Yuetian laughed bitterly. If I didn't come out, then half of the imperial capital would have probably been destroyed by all of you. As he spoke, he glanced at Li Xuanzang who stood nearby. Brother Li, it's not good for the old man to say anything now that the matter has developed to such an extent. How about this? Let me be the mediator, and we'll put an end to the matter today. Li Xuanzang laughed coldly. Put an end to the matter? As he spoke, he pointed at the nearby corpses and said, so they're just going to die for nothing? Jiang Yuetian's brows knit together slightly. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid the imperial capital would fall into chaos, he would wish for nothing more than for the two powers to fight to the death. Presently, the Jiang kingdom had a foreign enemy, the Tang kingdom, so it couldn't fall into chaos at all. Jiang Yuetian pondered deeply for a moment before he said, Brother Li, Kuraki Academy has experienced 1,000 years of glory since the dean of the Jiang kingdom. Amongst the surrounding kingdoms, the Jiang kingdom's Kuraki Academy is the strongest, and it's pursuing its glory. But if the battle continues, then perhaps Zhonglan Academy will be completely annihilated. However, with Brother Ji's strength, you can still destroy Kuraki Academy by taking it down with you. At that time, Brother Li will be condemned through the ages. Li Xuanzang clenched his fists tightly while a gloomy expression appeared on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. Jiang Yuetian continued, with Brother Li's ability, it's very likely that you'll head to the headquarters of Kuraki Academy in the Central Divine Prefecture and enter the Hall of Talents. However, if the kingdom of Zhang's Kuraki Academy is destroyed at your hands, then it might not be a good thing for you. Li Xuanzang was slightly moved when he heard this. The Hall of Excellence. That was the ultimate goal of all the students, instructors, and even the dean of Kuraki Academy. Meanwhile, Jiang Yuetian said, in the end, it's a battle between the younger generation. How about we continue allowing them to fight and fight? Brother Ji, Brother Li, what do the two of you think? Old man Ji spoke indifferently, I have no problem with that. Li Xuanzang glanced coldly at old man Ji and said, all right, I have no problem with that as well. As he spoke, he gazed at Jiang Yuan and said, Brother Jiang, please be a witness. My Kuraki Academy and Zhonglan Academy are irreconcilable enemies from this moment onward, and no one above the age of 25 is allowed to fight. What do you think? If any side breaks the rules, then I hope Brother Jiang can come out and uphold justice, all right? Both Old Man Ji and Jiang Yuan gazed at Li Xuanzang when they heard this. This wasn't normal, because there was clearly no one in Kuraki Academy who could suppress Yi Xian's group right now. But Li Xuanzang still made such a suggestion at a time like this, and it was extremely unusual. Jiang Yuetian pondered deeply for a moment, and then he gazed at Old Man Ji who stood nearby. Old Man Ji gazed at Yi Xian's group instead. Yi Xian shrugged and said, we have no problem with that. Old Man Ji gazed at Li Xuanzang and said, all right. As soon as he finished speaking, he glanced at Yi Xian's group and said, let's go. Just like that, Yi Xian's group left Kuraki Academy under Old Man Ji's lead. Jiang Yuetian sighed softly, and then he left Kuraki Academy. Li Xuanzang gazed at the corpses on the ground with a gloomy expression, and no one knew what he was thinking. Li Xiu was just about to speak when Li Xuanzang suddenly turned around and glanced coldly at him. This is what you've done. Li Xiu's expression was slightly unsightly. The experts of Kuraki Academy in the surroundings gazed at Li Xiu as well, and all of them had extremely hostile expressions. After all, Yi Xian had sought to join Kuraki Academy, and it was Li Xiu and Song Zhong who'd forced Yi Xian to leave. Now, Yi Xian had become a formidable enemy of Kuraki Academy. If Yi Xian was in Kuraki Academy, then Azure Water Academy would definitely be suppressed to the point of being unable to raise its head for 100 years. Unfortunately, he'd gone to Azure Water Academy instead. What a pity! What a pity! They hadn't thought of it in the past, but after they witnessed Yi Xian's strength and potential, they would be lying if they said they didn't feel regret. Even Li Xuanzang felt slightly regretful. He regretted not coming out to have a look himself. If he had, then Yi Xian's Kuraki Academy wouldn't have missed out on such an extraordinary genius. A short moment later, Li Xuanzang suddenly said, is Song Zhong still in the academy? An old man nodded. He is. Li Xuanzong said indifferently. What's the point of keeping him? Kill him immediately. The old man hesitated for a moment, then nodded, yes. With that he turned and left. Li Xuanzong glanced at Li Xiu. As for you, reflect on yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and walked up the mountain. Send a summons to all the Tsonglan Academy in the Azure Prefecture. Tell them that my Jiang country's Tsonglan Academy needs support. Anyone that's able to kill Yi Xian and the other students of Tsonglan Academy will be rewarded with a high-grade Earth rank technique, a high-grade Earth rank movement technique, a high-grade Earth rank technique, and 500,000 top-grade spirit stones. Requesting reinforcements. P.S. I was chatting with a reader yesterday, and the reader said, if there's a pirated version to read, why should I read the original? For a moment I was speechless. At this moment I felt a little sad. I can only write 1 chapter in the morning, and I have to write 3 chapters a day. I have to spend time in the morning, noon, and night. I can't rest before 10 p.m. every day. Moreover, I have to spend time to edit and check for typos the next day. When I told you about finding a rich woman, half of it wasn't a joke. It's really damn tiring. Of course, most of it is because I'm touched. I'm touched that many of my friends came to support me even though they could read a pirated version. Moreover, they were willing to spend money to tip me or vote for me. Chapter 75. The Azure world had 3 continents: the Azure continent, the Divine Central Continent, and the Azure Below Continent. In the Azure Continent, besides the largest empire, the Great Cloud Empire, there were nearly 100 other countries. Besides these countries, there were also various thousand-year-old clans and mysterious mountain powers. Kuraki Academy didn't belong to the mountain powers, but even those mysterious mountain powers didn't dare underestimate this academy. Because Kuraki Academy was spread throughout the entire Azure continent. Even the Great Cloud Empire had a Kuraki Academy, but that wasn't the most terrifying part. Rumor had it that Kuraki Academy's headquarters stood in the most glorious land of the Martial Way, the Divine Central Continent. In the Azure continent, the various Kuraki Academies were like nobles, and they only listened to the orders of the Kuraki Academy in the Divine Central Continent. However, this didn't mean that there was no contact between them. All the Kuraki Academies in the Azure continent competed against each other, but they also cooperated. The summon. This was one of their methods of cooperation. When one party was in trouble, they could summon help from all over. Of course, it wasn't free help, and there was a price to pay. The price that Kuraki Academy had paid wasn't just a small price, it was extremely huge. High-grade Earth rank cultivation techniques, high-grade Earth rank martial techniques, high-grade Earth rank movement techniques, and 500,000 top-grade spirit stones. Not to mention a chi-controlling realm and a few ascension realms, even killing a divine unity realm expert would be a price that countless people would pay. There would always be brave men under heavy rewards. In next to no time, countless spirit pigeons soared into the sky from Kuraki Academy and flew in all directions. It was a rather magnificent scene. The Imperial Capital. Kuraki Academy didn't have the ability to suppress what Yi Xian had done in Kuraki Academy, so it didn't take long for the entire Imperial Capital to know what Yi Xian had done in Kuraki Academy. The entire Imperial Capital was shocked. How many years had it been since Azure Below Academy had faded out of sight? No, it had faded out of sight. But now, Azure Below Academy actually dared to fight Kuraki Academy head-on. And they just won. The most terrifying thing was that Yi Xian had actually killed one of the most monstrous geniuses of Kuraki Academy, Fenju, and even used the corpses of Kuraki Academy's students to write the words Kuraki Academy in front of Kuraki Academy. This was a fierce slap to Kuraki Academy's face. Yi Xian. This time, Yi Xian's name once again spread throughout the imperial capital. Unlike last time, this time, countless people were curious about him, and some even admired him. A swordsman was always easily worshipped. In short, this time, Songlan Academy could be said to have a whole new level of respect for the entire imperial capital. Old Ji brought Yi Xian's group of 4 back to Azure Billow Academy. In front of Azure Billow Hall, Yi Xian saw Yi Ling. Yi Ling threw herself into Yi Xian's arms. She hugged Yi Xian tightly, fearing that Yi Xian would disappear. She didn't cry. She simply hugged Yi Xian, and there was an unusual determination in her eyes. Looking at Yi Ling in his arms, Yi Xian's cold expression softened. He gently rubbed Yi Ling's little head. "Brother promised you that I would come back." As he spoke, he looked at the black-dressed woman in a wheelchair not far away. "How should I address you?" The black-dressed woman pondered for a moment, then said, "Lu Jioga." Yi Xian nodded. "Miss Lu, thank you." The black-dressed woman shook her head. "You are a state knight, and the state of Jiang is on your side. Kuraki Academy will not let this matter rest. Take care." After speaking, the old man behind her pushed her away. The state of Jiang. Yi Xian glanced at the black-dressed woman's back. "I'll remember it." The black-dressed woman nodded slightly, and soon, the two disappeared not far away. At this time, Yi Ling suddenly said, "Brother, I'll go cook for you. We want to eat too." At this time, Mo Yunqi, who was behind Yi Xian, suddenly chuckled. "Xiao Ling, make some for us too." Bai Zhe nodded. "Me too." Yi Ling chuckled. "There will be some." After speaking, she turned and ran away quickly. At this time, Old Man Ji suddenly pointed with his finger, and soon, 4 golden pills fell in front of Yi Xian and the others. "Go and heal your injuries first." Yi Xian nodded, then picked up his pill and walked to his room. Mo Yunqi looked at the pill in front of him, then exclaimed, "Old Man Ji, this pill is extraordinary." As he spoke, he looked at Old Man Ji. "Actually, you are quite rich. Speaking of which, since you are so rich, can you improve the quality of our lives? Or you can recruit a few female students too." Old Man Ji said indifferently, "Scram." Mo Yunqi chuckled. "You can think about it, especially the last one." After speaking, he turned and ran away. Bai Zhe and Ji Anji turned and left as well. At this moment, Jiang Yuetian appeared not too far away from Old Man Ji. Jiang Yuetian glanced into the distance and then said, "The 3 fellows you recruited are all not bad, especially that Yi Xian. This kid is not simple." Old Man Ji said indifferently, "Normally, your imperial family would wish for my Songlan Academy and Kuraki Academy to fight to the death, but you came out today to be the peacemaker. That's not normal." Jiang Yuan laughed. "Indeed, I wish for you to fight to the death with Li Xuanzeng, but what about after that? Your Songlan Academy will be completely destroyed, and Kuraki Academy will be heavily injured, but will it end just like that?" "No, Azure Prefecture's Kuraki Academy will continue to send people over here to rebuild Kuraki Academy. At that time, they will truly be the strongest." Old Man Ji said indifferently, "I understand. You want my Songlan Academy to continue wasting time with Kuraki Academy." Jiang Yuan shook his head. "Old Man Ji, this old man will be frank with you. This time, my imperial family stands on your side. Of course, we can't openly help you, but we are willing to help you secretly. After all, that kid is a state scholar, and he has a good relationship with little Jiao. My imperial family values him greatly." Old Man Ji drank a mouthful of wine and fell silent. Jiang Yuan laughed. "Old Man Ji, you won't object, right?" Old Man Ji shook his head. "I won't object, but don't play any tricks on him." Jiang Yuan laughed. "Of course not. We will protect him in secret as well. This kid isn't just loyal, he also cares about his country. This time, he helped little Jiao Tian greatly. My imperial family has no ill intentions towards him, this old man can guarantee." Old Man Ji nodded. "That's good." With that, he drank a mouthful of wine and turned to leave. Jiang Yuan turned to glance at Songlan Academy and said with a smile, "Great swordsman. What a great swordsman." With that, he turned and disappeared on the spot. Inside the kitchen, Yi Ling was cooking by the fire. At this moment, a little girl suddenly appeared not far from her. The little girl wore a small cotton jacket, with a long braid behind her head, and looked quite cute. Yi Ling glanced at the little girl, but didn't say anything. The little girl said calmly, "Your brother almost died today." Yi Ling hugged her knees and didn't say anything. The little girl looked straight at Yi Ling. "You've already implicated him many times. Today he almost died because of you, and in the future his enemies might still target you." Yi Ling's tears suddenly flowed down, and she couldn't stop wiping them away. The little girl walked in front of Yi Ling. "You have to be independent, and you have to become stronger. Only then will you not implicate your brother. No, I should say, in the future, you will be able to protect your brother better." Yi Ling raised her head to look at the little girl. "Big brother is very powerful. Can I protect him?" The corners of the little girl's mouth curled up. "He is very powerful, but compared to you, he is far inferior. As long as you come with me, I can guarantee that in the future, you will be even more dazzling than the country of Zhongs and Guosher." Yi Ling was stunned and then said, "Why?" The little girl's smile gradually widened, or rather, she was a little excited, "Because you have the cold spirit physique, a legendary special physique. As long as you come with me, my cold north sect will use all its resources to nurture you and let you kill your way through the Azure World's monster list." Yi Ling was silent for a long time, and finally she raised her head to look at the little girl. "I promise you." The little girl was wild with joy, but at this moment Yi Ling said, "But I have to accompany Big Brother for a while." The little girl hesitated and then nodded. "Okay, I will come find you when the time comes." After saying that, she turned around and disappeared. In front of the stove, Yi Ling hugged her knees and just stared blankly at the flames in the stove. In the Azure Wave Palace, everyone gathered. It was time to eat. There were more than 10 dishes on the table, and all of them were personally prepared by Yi Ling and Yi Xian. During this time, Yi Ling would occasionally put food into Yi Xian's bowl, and all of them were meat. This caused Mo Yunqi and the others to be speechless. This was his biological sister. After the meal, Old Man Ji took a sip of wine, and then said, "Let me tell you some bad news. Kuraki Academy has already issued a summon order. In the entire Azure Province, there are a total of 72 Kuraki Academies, and country of Zhong's Kuraki Academy is only one of them. Now, they have issued a summon order, and they are offering extremely high rewards, which means that the super geniuses and monsters of the remaining 71 Kuraki Academies may come to country of Jiang." After saying that, he glanced at Yi Xian and the others. "What you will face next is not 1 or 2 geniuses and monsters, but a group of them, and I can't do anything." Yi Xian raised the bowl of soup in front of him and drank it in one gulp. "Just do it." Beside Yi Xian, Mo Yunqi nodded. "We can only do it." After saying that, he seemed to have thought of something and then looked at Old Man Ji. "Old Man, Kuraki Academy has so many branches. What about Artsong Lan Academy? Speaking of which, does Artsong Lan Academy not have any background?" Yi Xian also looked at Old Man Ji. This was also the reason why he was curious. Old Man Ji was silent, and after a moment, he took a sip of wine, and then said softly, "Artsong Lan Academy headquarters is located in the Central Plains, and together with Kuraki Academy, we are known as the 2 branches, and our Artsong Lan Academy has a total of 108 branches in Artsong Lan continent." At this moment, Mo Yunqi suddenly stood up. "Old man, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and call for help." Bai Zhe hurriedly nodded in agreement. "Call for help." Old Man Ji shook his head. "I can't." Mo Yunqi was stunned and then said, "Why?" Old Man Ji said softly, "This side has declined. We are the weakest among all the branches of Artsong Lan Academy. To put it bluntly, they look down on us, and they don't even want to be associated with us, and they don't acknowledge us, understand?" Chapter 76. The expressions of Yi Xian and the others stiffened. Old Man Ji, on the other hand, kept drinking without saying a word. Mo Yunqi hesitated for a moment and said, "Old man, you guys did not do well in the past." Old Man Ji glanced at Mo Yunqi. Mo Yunqi's expression changed slightly and he quickly said, "Old man, we can talk this out. Don't fight." Old Man Ji shook his head slightly. "In this Qingzhou, our Kanglin Academy was once glorious. However, this is all in the past. There is no point in talking about it now. The three of you, follow me to the back mountain. After saying that, he stood up and left. Yi Xian and the others stood up and followed him. Only Yi Ling was left in the hall. Yi Ling clenched her small hands tightly. Brother, I will work hard too. Her eyes were filled with determination. Back mountain. Old man Ji brought the three of them to a waterfall. His gaze landed on Bai Zhe. Now, we need to increase the intensity of your training. We need to stimulate the power of the demon beast bloodline in your body as soon as possible. After saying that, he pointed to a pile of 2 metal balls the size of a human head not far away. Old man Ji said calmly, wear it and go under the waterfall. Bai Zhe hesitated for a moment, then nodded. He hung the 2 metal balls on his body, and the ground beneath his feet clearly caved in a little. Under everyone's gaze, Bai Zhe came to the bottom of the waterfall and tied his feet to the iron chain. Soon, Bai Zhe's beast-like howls came from under the waterfall. Mo Yunqi could not bear to look at it. This was too cruel. At this moment, old man Ji looked at him. Seeing this, Mo Yunqi's expression changed slightly and he quickly said, Old man, I think I am already very strong. Old man Ji said calmly, Are you sure? Mo Yunqi nodded quickly. Old man Ji looked at Yi Xian. Use that sword on him to determine life and death. Mo Yunqi was speechless. Yi Xian looked at Mo Yunqi. Mo Yunqi jumped up. Old man, are you joking? Don't get drunk. Old man Ji said indifferently, rather than letting you die at the hands of those Kuraki students, it's better to let you die at the hands of your own people. This way, it'll be more dignified. Mo Yunqi was silent. Yi Xian walked to his side and gently patted his shoulder. Isn't it just a little hardship? It's no big deal. If you really don't want to suffer, that's fine too. I guarantee that this sword won't kill you. At most, it will cripple you. The corner of Mo Yunqi's mouth twitched. He hesitated for a moment and looked at Old Man Ji. Tell me, how are you going to torture me? Old Man Ji casually tossed a long iron chain in front of Mo Yunqi. There were small iron balls tied to the chain. Old Man Ji said calmly, wear it and run 100 laps around our back mountain. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once in the evening. The time limit is an hour. If you exceed the time limit, you'll have to add another 20 laps. Yi Xian's expression was a little strange. The back mountain was not small. The entire journey was at least 40 to 50 kilometers, and the time limit was an hour, and he had to carry this iron ball. In any case, he couldn't do it. Mo Yunqi's face fell. Old man, do you want me to run until my legs break? Old man Ji said calmly, running until your legs break is better than being broken by others. Let's start now. If you say another word of nonsense, I'll add another 10 laps. Mo Yunqi. A moment later, Mo Yunqi began. As he ran, he shouted strangely. No one knew what he was shouting about. At this time, Old Man Ji looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian grinned. How to cultivate, I'll listen to Old Man Ji's instructions. Old Man Ji looked at Yi Xian with a complicated gaze. The power you used at Kuraki Academy before, was it the power of the earth? Yi Xian nodded. Old Man Ji sighed softly. You're a little mysterious, but that's not important. Follow me. After saying that, he brought Yi Xian and Ji Anji to a small mountain. This small mountain in front of them was the one Yi Xian didn't finish blasting before. Yi Xian said softly, Old Man Ji, do you want me to continue blasting this small mountain? Old Man Ji said, yes and no. Yi Xian looked at Old Man Ji. Old Man Ji said softly, you're a swordsman and a martial artist. I don't understand the path of the sword Dao Yi, but I know a thing or two about the path of the martial Dao Yi. After saying that, he pointed at the small mountain in the distance. What do you think it is? Yi Xian said in a deep voice. The mountain. Old Man Ji shook his head. It's not a mountain. It's an obstacle. After saying that, he suddenly punched out. Boom. With a single punch, the small mountain collapsed with a loud rumble. Just like that, a small mountain collapsed. Yi Xian was dumbfounded. He knew that Old Man Ji was powerful, but he was still very shocked when he saw Old Man Ji's punch again. The power of a single punch was so strong. Old Man Ji turned to look at Yi Xian. Do you know what you lack the most? Yi Xian shook his head. Old Man Ji said softly, when you're angry, you have enough killing intent, but not enough aura. You have killing intent, but not aura. Although your combat strength isn't weak, it's not enough. If you can mix your killing intent with aura, you'll be much stronger. Not only that, you'll be one step closer to becoming a martial Dao Grandmaster. As he said that, he looked at the collapsed small mountain in the distance. What is aura? Aura is a psychological suppression. When you faced the small mountain earlier, you treated it as a mountain that's difficult to destroy. In terms of mental state, you've already lost. You should treat it as a piece of trash that's blocking your path, a piece of trash that you can destroy at any time. Yi Xian said in a low voice, but it's not trash. Isn't that a little self-deceiving? Good question. Old Man Ji looked at Yi Xian. I'm very pleased that you can think that way. And I want you to understand that aura is a form of confidence. When facing an enemy, you must have the confidence that you're invincible. Those who are your enemies, those who stand in front of you, and those who block your path are all trash. Of course, confidence isn't arrogance. To put it simply, we have to look down on our enemies strategically and take them seriously tactically. As he said that, he pointed to the collapsed small mountain in front of him. In my heart, this is a pile of trash. However, when I attack, I won't look down on it at all. Not only will I not look down on it, but I will also use my full strength. I look down on you in my heart, but I take you seriously when I attack. Yi Xian turned to look at the small mountain in the distance and fell into deep thought. Old Man Ji said again, do you know why Xianxia is strong? Yi Xian turned to look at Old Man Ji. Old Man Ji said softly, she's strong because of her aura. Even when facing enemies who are much stronger than her, she doesn't feel the slightest fear in her heart. Even when facing me, she doesn't feel the slightest bit of weakness in terms of aura. She can't beat me, but she has never been afraid of me. This kind of aura is rare among the younger generation of the state of Jiang. As he said that, he suddenly looked at Yi Xian. You don't have aura, but you have something that others don't. What is it? Yi Xian asked subconsciously. Old Man Ji said softly, fearlessness. Fearlessness? Yi Xian was puzzled. Old Man Ji said, you don't have that kind of domineering aura, but you've never been afraid of anyone either. In Kuraki Academy, even though you knew that you had no chance of winning, you didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. You dared to fight when you said you wanted to. Not only that, when you faced that girl and you didn't feel the slightest bit of weakness in your state of mind when you talked to her. Perhaps this is also the reason why she thinks so highly of you. As he said that, he glanced at Yi Xian. From you, I think of a saying, you can be weak, but you can't be a coward. Yi Xian. At this moment, Old Man Ji suddenly said, follow me. As he said that, he led Yi Xian into the distance. Soon he brought Yi Xian to another mountain. This mountain was several times bigger than the previous one. The previous mountain could barely be called a mountain, but this one was a real mountain, and it wasn't small at all. Old Man Ji looked at Yi Xian. What's your first feeling when you see this mountain? Yi Xian thought for a moment before saying, if you want me to shatter this mountain with one punch, then I think you must be crazy. Old Man Ji drank a mouthful of wine. This is what you lack. You don't fear the enemy when they are powerful. In this aspect, you do better than many people. However, you lack that domineering aura of wanting to kill you no matter how powerful you are. No, it should be said that you have that aura, but only when your sister is in danger will you have it. As he said that, he drank another mouthful of wine. I'll just stand here and think. When I understand, I'll leave. After he finished speaking, he leisurely walked to a rock at the side, tilted his body, and directly lay down on the rock. Not long after, sounds of snoring could be heard. Yi Xian looked at the small mountain in front of him and fell silent. In actuality, he had sensed it before. It was from Xianxia. The feeling Xianxia gave him was that there was no problem in this world that could stump her, and there was no one that she could not defeat. Of course, the most obvious was the mysterious woman. Back on the cloud ship, the mysterious woman's aura with the water sword in her hand had truly shocked him. If I want you to live, you will live. If I want you to die, you will die. One sword to decide life and death. Thinking of this, Yi Xian was suddenly stunned. In the next moment, he suddenly took out his spirit-elegant sword. Yi Xian held the sword in his hand and looked at the small mountain in the distance. In his mind, the scene of the mysterious woman on the cloud ship kept appearing. That woman held the water sword as if there was no one in this world that she could not kill. Wasn't this a type of aura? She used one sword to decide life and death, and he used one sword to decide life and death. But why was there such a huge difference? Putting aside his realm and strength, his state of mind was already biased. One sword to decide life and death. What this sword technique required the most wasn't cultivation but aura. The aura of, if I want you to live, then you will live, and if I want you to die, then you will definitely die. When he thought up to here, Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. So I misunderstood this sword technique. As he spoke, he raised his head and looked at the nearby mountain. A sword howl suddenly resounded. In the next moment, bang! A powerful aura surged out from Yi Xian's body, and the ground before him cracked inch by inch. Not far away, old Ji suddenly sat up. He stared blankly at Yi Xian in the distance. What the hell? I taught you to comprehend fist aura, but you comprehend sword aura? What the hell are you talking about? Chapter 77. Sword Force. In the distance, Yi Xian held the Spirit Grace sword in his hand, and he emanated a peerlessly domineering aura. This aura was based on the sword, so it could be considered as a sword force. With the Spirit Elegant sword in hand, Yi Xian slowly walked towards the huge mountain. With every step he took, the ground in front of him would crack several feet apart. Not long after, with him as the center, the ground within a radius of several hundred feet around him had already cracked into a spider web shape. Not far away, old Ji stared fixedly at Yi Xian. At this moment, he didn't seem drunk at all, and there was only seriousness on his face. Sword Force. It wasn't just the sword force that Yi Xian had revealed, it was also the sword technique that he was about to execute. Even though Yi Xian hadn't executed the sword technique, he'd already sensed the sword technique's force. This was absolutely not something that an Earth-rank sword technique could accomplish. At this moment, he didn't care about the force. Instead, he cared about why Yi Xian possessed such a terrifying sword technique. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stopped, and the sword force around him instantly vanished without a trace. Yi Xian lowered his head to look at the Spirit Grace sword that was trembling slightly in his hand. I won't disgrace you. A sword howl resounded abruptly. Yi Xian grinned and released his hand. In the next moment, the Spirit Grace sword transformed into a sword light that flashed. Sword light flickered around Yi Xian, controlling the sword with qi. Presently, he was even more proficient in controlling the sword because his compatibility with the Spirit Grace sword had reached 80%. Right at this moment, old Ji suddenly said, "Why didn't you execute that strike?" Yi Xian turned to look at old Ji. He tapped with his finger, and the Spirit Grace sword suddenly landed firmly on his right. He smiled and said, "There's no need for that strike. Because I've understood what force is." Force. It could be said that his current strike to decide life and death had already surpassed the superior grade Earth rank without the energy of the Earth being mixed in. If it was combined with the energy of the Earth, then this strike would absolutely not be inferior to a heaven rank martial technique. It should be said that in his heart at this moment, deciding life and death with a single strike was no longer just a sword technique. It was also a kind of sword Dao concept and state of mind. Old Ji looked at Yi Xian for a long time. Suddenly he smiled. Kuraki Academy's expulsion of the youth in front of him was the greatest loss they had suffered in the past several hundred years. Without a doubt, that was the most profitable one he had ever made in so many years. Old man Ji patted Yi Xian's shoulder lightly. It's good to be young. With that he turned around and left. Yi Xian did not leave. After he sheathed his sword, he raised his head and looked at the mountain not far away. He slowly clenched his right fist. Boom! An invisible pressure suddenly rippled out from his fist. Step by step, Yi Xian walked towards the mountain in front of him. When he was about 10 feet away from the mountain wall suddenly cracked. At this moment, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. His right hand clenched tightly. Crack, 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 crack. The entire mountain wall continued to crack, and the cracks spread rapidly in all directions. He was pressuring others with force. The fist Dao? The sword Dao? Most of the time, they were actually connected. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes, and then he suddenly charged forward and smashed his fist against the mountain wall. Boom! Yi Xian's entire arm pierced through the mountain wall. In the next moment, the mountain wall collapsed, and countless rocks shot into the air before being crushed into powder. Yi Xian moved over 10 back. There was a pitch-black hole in the mountain wall before him, and it was so deep that he could not see the bottom of it. Actually, this punch of his wasn't an area of effect attack, it was a single target attack. This punch was something he'd thought of on the spur of the moment. He just wanted to try it out in the beginning, but he hadn't expected it to actually be so powerful. Even though it wasn't as powerful as his sword Dao, it was at least a few times stronger than the punch annihilation from before. It could be said that this punch of his could even instantly annihilate a levitation realm profounder. If it was combined with the energy of the earth, then it could even pose a threat to a nether passage realm profounder. Yi Xian glanced at his fist and chuckled. I'll call this move one punch to the head, and it's a fist technique that was made for smashing heads. I created it myself, heh. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. As he left, another layer of the mountain wall behind him suddenly collapsed. Yi Xian arrived before the waterfall, and Bai Zhe was still howling incessantly beneath it. Yi Xian sized Bai Zhe up carefully and was slightly surprised. Because he noticed that the veins on Bai Zhe's body had bulged up and the blood vessels beneath his skin were actually trembling slightly. The energy of his bloodline? Yi Xian was slightly curious. He'd heard of some people who possessed a half-human, half-demon physique. These people possessed the bloodline of demon beasts, and if they were able to activate the demon bloodline within their bodies, then they would be able to obtain demon energy and improve their strength greatly. On the other hand, Bai Zhe obviously hadn't truly activated the energy of his bloodline. Once Bai Zhe activated the energy of his bloodline, then his body and strength would definitely undergo a qualitative transformation. After all, Bai Zhe's current strength was extremely formidable. Once the demon beast bloodline within his body was activated, then he would definitely become even stronger. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly turned around and saw a figure dashing madly not too far away. It was Mo Yunqi. Mo Yunqi's clothes were completely drenched, and he was exhausted like an ox. Meanwhile, Mo Yunqi suddenly gazed at Yi Xian who stood nearby, and he was stunned when he saw Yi Xian. After that he said, "You didn't cultivate?" Yi Xian nodded. "I didn't." Mo Yunqi blinked, and then he said furiously in the next moment, "Fuck! Why didn't you cultivate? Why didn't Geezer G torture you? That's too unfair." Yi Xian walked over to Mo Yunqi, and he patted Mo Yunqi on the shoulder lightly. "Do you know what a genius is?" As he spoke, he pointed at himself. "See that? This is a genius. I'm going to sleep. You run slowly, I'll support you spiritually." After that, he left into the distance. On the spot, Mo Yunqi suddenly spat to the side. "Genius? Shameless thing. Just you wait, I'll beat you until you cry." After that, he turned and ran into the distance, wailing and howling as he ran. No one knew what he was howling about. When Yi Xian returned to the Kanglin Palace, Yi Ling wasn't asleep. Instead, she sat on the stone steps and hugged her knees. When she saw Yi Xian, she jumped up. Yi Xian walked over to Yi Ling, and he gently rubbed Yi Ling's little head. He said gently, "Why aren't you asleep yet?" Yi Ling hugged Yi Xian's arm and pulled him to sit on the stone steps. Then, she gently leaned her head on Yi Xian's shoulder and said softly, "I want to accompany Big Brother." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Big Brother is always here." Yi Ling tilted her head and looked at Yi Xian. Big brother, if I can cultivate, will you object? Yi Xian was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, why would I object? If you can cultivate, you'll be able to protect Big Brother in the future. Yi Xian blinked, then grinned. She hugged Yi Xian's arm tightly, then looked up at the sky. The night sky was dotted with stars. Yi Ling said softly, Big Brother, do you think Mother is still here? Yi Xian was silent. Mother? Towards that woman. He was getting more and more blurry. At this moment, Yi Ling said softly, it doesn't matter if she's here or not. Anyway, I only have Big Brother. Big Brother is enough. Yi Xian gently rubbed his head against Yi Ling's little head. As long as you're safe and happy, Big Brother is willing to do anything. Under the starry sky, the two siblings leaned against each other quietly. The next day, at daybreak, Yi Xian went to the back of the mountain and continued to cultivate. Not only did he cultivate, but he also cultivated Imperial Sword. He could already control the sword, but he was not proficient enough. What he needed to do now was to cultivate this Imperial Sword technique to the extreme. Bai Zhe and Mo Yunqi were also cultivating crazily. For the two of them, the pressure was very great. They came to Zhonglan Academy, just like Yi Xian, for some special reasons. No matter what the reason was, they had now integrated into this academy and had a sense of belonging. And the two of them were very clear about the current situation of this academy. If they were not strong, they could be killed by Kuraki Academy at any time. Cultivate with their lives on the line. And a few days later, outside the Imperial City, 3 young men in ink-white robes suddenly galloped over. The 3 of them were extremely fast, and the pedestrians on the road all gave way. In front of the city gate, seeing that the 3 of them had no intention of slowing down, a soldier hurriedly shouted, "Who are you?" The 3 of them did not slow down. Seeing this scene, the soldier's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Just like that, the 3 of them directly rushed into the city. Soon, a group of soldiers blocked in front of the 3 of them. A middle-aged man glared at the 3 of them. Fast horses are not allowed in the city. The 3 of you. At this moment, the young man in the lead suddenly jumped down from his horse. In the next moment, the young man suddenly disappeared. In an instant, a muffled sound rang out, and the middle-aged man was directly sent flying. Seeing this scene, the soldiers were furious and were about to attack. But at this moment, an angry shout suddenly came from the side. Impudent! As the voice fell, an old man appeared in front of the group of soldiers. The old man glanced at the group of soldiers coldly. Can't you see? They are all students of my Kuraki Academy. Kuraki Academy? The soldiers' expressions changed slightly, and they did not dare to attack. The old man turned to look at the 3 behind him. Where are the 3 of you from? The young man in the lead said indifferently, Tang Empire. Tang Empire. Hearing this, the soldiers' expressions suddenly became a little ugly. The Tang Empire was the enemy of the Jiang Empire. The old man nodded. Please return to the academy with me. The young man in the lead shook his head. There's no need. Where's Yi Xian? The old man hesitated for a moment and said, It's better to give it further thought. The 3 of you, give it further thought? The young man in the lead said coldly, If we give it further thought, then we probably won't even be able to get any scraps. Don't waste time and just tell me where Yi Xian is. Once we take his head, the 3 of us will be able to return to the empire. The old man glanced at the 3 of them. That fellow Yi Xian isn't an ordinary person. He's at Zhonglan Academy. Right at this moment, the middle-aged man who was blasted flying earlier suddenly stood up, and he gazed at the young man in the lead. Yi Xian is at Zhonglan Academy. If you don't know the way, then we'll take you there. The young man in the lead said indifferently, Lead the way. The middle-aged man turned around to glance at the others, and then he roared furiously, Give the order for all brothers to have an hour of rest. Go cheer for me at Zhonglan Academy, and I'll break the legs of anyone who doesn't come. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.